Hello, it's me. I'm in a brain because I ain't got one of my own. So I had to find it on the internet and put it on my phone. Hit it. Hello. Hi, everybody.
What up, homie?
I reorganized my sound bites last night, so hopefully I can get them faster and make them more relevant.
We are now live, mofos.
Great start. Okay, welcome. Taro is in a terrible mood. She wants her food. But as we know, food is at 7 p.m. Eastern, and it is 6:18, so she's going to have to suffer in silence. And by silence, I mean meowing at me incessantly for the next 20 minutes. Because I can't do math very well. Because in 20 minutes, she'll still be hungry. Okay. Is that true?
No.
Can you hear her?
No.
Can you hear her meowing?
No.
Lies. You can all hear her. Okay, well, we have a fun one today. We're not doing the wheel. We're going all in. We're going all in because I'm so excited to watch this podcast. And I figured, why not do it live? Because this is a guy that's been on my last gosh darn nerve for years. And this is a man of science, allegedly, right? He actually went to school. He's in a profession that's not life coach, health coach, blah, blah, blah coach. You know, he's actually gone through the schooling and has a practice and still wants to be a grifter. So I don't know if it's more insulting or less insulting than people who have no education that grift and make up bullshit, but he should know better, in my opinion. I did a video about him, Dr. Amen, a couple years ago. It's not the best video. I watched it recently again, and I'm like, I can't even watch myself. But I've been following him for a long time. His grift is getting celebrities, and I say that lightly. Rachel Hollis has been on the show. I believe Mel Robbins has been on the show. Jay Shetty's been on the show. People from TikTok, Logan Paul. And by show, he has a YouTube channel where he interviews people and gives them a free brain scan. And then they talk about how amazing he is as a doctor. Now, these scans, and I'll show you what they are. They're called SPECT scans, SPECT. And they're basically images of your brain. And they're colorful. This is what they look like. But apparently, according to my research, it's sort of an outdated methodology, and it's really only helpful mainly, in my understanding, with Alzheimer's. You can really see a difference. Like, okay, here, Alzheimer's, dementia, you're actually getting some information here if someone has that disorder disease. But other than that, there's really no proof that I've been able to see. We're going to hear his claims on this podcast. There is no other real value to doing these scans. And of course, why would he do this for no reason if there's no proof? Well, you can charge thousands of dollars, and he does charge thousands of dollars to get this special scan that actually doesn't tell you anything about your brain. What he will do is just, and it's not even him, it's a team of doctors that work under him, will interview you like any psychiatrist would, talk about your family history like any psychiatrist would, and will give you medication for 15 times the price because you get this beautiful rainbow brain scan that means nothing to you. Anyways, that's the principle of the whole argument. And he also has a supplement business, and his supplements, he claims, do tons and tons and tons of stuff. He sells them at his office. He pushes these down people's throats. He said it's going to, improve your brain, improve your memory. He's also made a lot of claims about CTE, which is the brain disease that you can't check for until the person has passed. That's associated with the NFL and football injuries. There's been people who've paid tens of thousands of dollars to hopefully heal this, and he's claimed in ways that he can do that, and they've just been losing money and have no solutions because there is no provable science that there's a cure at this point. But he'll tell you whatever you want if you're going to pay him money. Anyway, so before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Beth Puma 88. Thank you so much. Beth Puma chose a video game controller that looks forlorn in between the words try again. That's Dr. Amen. Try again, sir. And this is what I have to say to you.
You have strong sugar glider energy.
And also?
You look like a Lord of the Rings elf.
And also?
You have to think instead of sitting around eating Skittles and watching Oprah reruns.
Ah, it's the best. That's the best one. Okay, so the podcast we're going to talk about, and I'll show you Dr. Amen real quick. If you don't know what he looks like, if you haven't clicked on this thumbnail. So here's Dr. Amen. He is the son of a grocery, I forget the Ralph's maybe? It's like a famous grocery store. It was in, this is just a little lore for you, a little interesting lore. The grocery store that was featured in A Star is Born. So when Bradley Cooper meets up with Lady Gaga in the grocery store parking lot, that grocery store is his family's grocery store. So he's got some money and he wanted to keep that money flowing in. And the way he's doing this is by saying and claiming, which is annoying, that other psychiatrists aren't as smart as him, aren't willing to try to do what he's done. And he's got all the proof in the world, which is wink, wink, trust me, bro, that his methods are superior to others. Annoying. And he also...
I'm emotional right now. Grift inventor?
Grift inventor, yes. Grift inventor, well, I don't know if he's an inventor. He's a grifter. Does that make sense? He's a grifter king. King grifter. And for you, I say this.
Wow, you're so wise.
True. Very much true. Casey Kasem. Casey Kasem's here? Do you know Casey Kasem's daughter is a Scientologist? The more you know. Did you know that? Yes, you did. So cute. A long time ago, I think I have somewhere on this channel, by the way, where we went through Rachel Hollis's brain scan with Dr. Amen. And if you remember, she claimed that he told her, you need to give up coffee and give up alcohol. And she was like, that'll be so easy. I care about my brain more than anyone else on this planet. So I will do that. No problem. And then like a week later, she was on her stories, like drinking tequila and chugging a latte without any mention of her proclamation. Anyways, okay, so this is his thing. He's got another channel though, which I was gonna watch for a moment, but it doesn't even matter. Who cares? Who cares? Let's get into this this interview. So this is Dr. Mike. He's I don't know what kind of doctor he is. Internal medicine, something like that. But he does a lot of podcasts and has TikTok and Instagram. Is basically like a media person now. And he does confront these people. Oh, you can't see it. He does confront these grifters on his channel. And when I saw clips of this, I was pleasantly thrilled and surprised that he actually asked some of the questions that I have had for a long time of like, wait, you're claiming that the whole medical industry is evil and out to get people with mental health issues. Okay, well, what are you doing that's different? You are actually charging people more and have less proof. So what do you have to say for that? And it's just like, I never thought of that before. It's like, okay. Okay, good start to this business you have. Wonderful, wonderful. If you're hiring Logan Paul to promote your business, you just know. Like, you know that you're problematic.
Somebody ought to smack you.
Okay. Anyways. Okay, so here, let's begin. I hope I gave a good enough intro. I don't know if we'll go through the whole thing. If it becomes boring, we'll forget it, but we got his book right front and center. So he's always hawking something. He's got a brain, which I find annoying. He's got a brain coach training that you can take online, and then you can proclaim yourself as like a brain coach. Grift. And you can pay like $1,000 or whatever to take it. That's crazy. And he sells the supplements. He sells everything on his website. He's just like, he's He's one of those. You can tell. Anyways, okay, here we go. Let's hit it.
You want to try and disprove your method in order to prove how strong it is?
So at this point in my career, no.
A SPECT scan takes 3D images of the brain, looking at blood flow and activity. Dr. Amen says the images can be a powerful tool to diagnose underlying problems.
I have more experience in this than anybody probably in the history of the world.
Do you not feel that
If anyone claims to say stuff like that, I have more knowledge than anyone in the world on this subject. That's a Rachel Hollis direct quote. Okay. Where is that one? Okay. I have more. Wait.
I am not problematic.
I have dyslexia so bad.
That's me.
Me?
I need attention. I need help.
I don't know if anyone's covered this as much as I have. Oh, I'll have to find that one. That's a Rachel Hollis quote direct. So you already know it's going to be probably bullshit. Thank you to Amy. Amy LX Laxern. Amy. We'll just call you Amy. Amy, thank you so much. Amy says, been binging your Heidi Powell videos lately. Love the tea. I believe that I saw your Boss Lee video a while back. Glad you're doing your thing. Thank you. Well, how sweet are you? My goodness. Wow. That is so just gosh darn nice of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also,
Share this episode with every single person that you know.
make sure to do it.
Comment the word brainwash and we will send you the entire episode.
You're welcome. We need to look at Heidi Powell again soon. It's just been boyfriend content for quite a while, so I was trying to like give it some time and do a stream, but we'll do that not next week, but maybe the following.
Take my load. I'd fill that load.
That's a preview. Thank you, Amy.
that it's an issue that there is no randomized control data?
You know, I went and got a brain scan by this guy called Daniel Amen.
How do you know what
Mel Gibson. And here's Kim Kardashian.
is actually going on in that person's brain without looking?
By asking them questions, by doing
That's
validated
complete
questions.
crap, Mike. It's complete crap.
Today's guest.
So he gets heated, okay? I'm excited to see it. And the thing is, that's complete crap. It's not. And the only way I would ever believe this is if they, and this is the thing, it'd be like a trick, I guess he could do, a magic trick. But this is when I would believe it. And I think this is the only way that he could really prove that this is true. If you had 1,000, or no, let's say 20 brain scans, right? They're all looking different. If he could, without meeting the person, knowing their age, knowing anything about them, go, yes, this person has depression, this person has ADD, this person has, whatever. If he could do that without meeting the person and just having the rainbow scan and be 100% accurate, I'd be like, there's something to this. He can't. All he can do is confirm his own beliefs by saying, oh, see, your brain shows what I already predicted by speaking to you and giving you 1,000 questionnaire before you came in. Okay, here we go.
Guest is Dr. Daniel Amen, a physician with double board certifications in psychiatry and child and adolescent psychiatry. He's a multiple New York Times bestselling author and has just published a new book called Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain. He is also the founder of Amen Clinics, a nationwide network of offices that rely heavily on SPECT scans, a unique functional imaging approach that Dr. Amen claims is capable of identifying psychiatric diagnoses within the brain, which allows him to create better treatment plans for his patients, which often include supplements he sells through his other company, BrainMD. As you'll hear him say, he's reviewed hundreds.
You see, those vitamins ain't cheap. Hundreds of dollars for like one dose, if not multiple, you have to take a day to fix your dumb brains.
Of thousands of these scans, which he's used to improve the lives of countless patients over his decades-long career. Given that major health organizations have come out against using SPECT in this way, I needed to ask what research he was using to guide his protocols. Because if you're going to go against the APA, the AAN, you have to have some pretty compelling data, right? Let's talk historical.
And there's so much incentive for other psychiatrists to do this because they get a scanner and they can charge $4,000 per patient. There's all the incentive of the world if you're a big pharma is evil believer and medicine is only about making money. the blueprint is here for this guy. You can go and start your own clinic and make a lot more money than just meeting patients and doing intakes. But okay.
Berkeley, how you got into this space, because I don't see a lot of folks, at least on the internet, talking about neurology, psychiatry, and how these two fields come together. Is this a unique field? I'm not certainly exposed to it as a primary care doctor, so I'm curious how you found your interest in that.
So when I was 18, Vietnam was going on, and I became an infantry medic, and that's where my love of medicine was born. But about a year into it, I realized I didn't like being shot at, so I got retrained as an X-ray technician. And that was pivotal for me because our professors used to say, how do you know unless you look? And then 1979, I'm a second-year medical student. Someone I love tries to kill herself, and I took her to see a wonderful psychiatrist. And I came to realize if he helped her, which he did, it wouldn't just help her, that it would help me. It would help her children. It would help her grandchildren, as they would be shaped by someone who was happier and more stable. So 46 years ago, I fell in love with psychiatry. I've loved it every day since. The only medical specialty that never looks at the organ it treats.
Okay, that's his big claim. So Dr. Amen also has basically infomercials. I don't know if he does anymore, but on PBS, he's bought or somehow does these, like aging in your brain lectures on there. For years he's been doing this, which is, I guess, a gateway to get people to go to his clinics, I'm assuming. But that's his big sales pitch. How come every other field of medicine, every other doctor, if you're a cardiologist, you look at the heart. If you're something else, you look at that. You're a gastroenterologist, whatever. You look at the stomach. Why is it that psychiatry, we don't look at the brain? And that's like, people go, yeah, you're right. That people don't look at the brain, the organ itself. But even if you look at a brain, again, there's not like it's not palm reading where you go, yes, I'm just going to make a prediction about what I feel I'm seeing. There is no proof that it's other than a marketing tactic to say, yeah, this guy looks at the brain, other psychiatrists don't, but the outcome's the same. Does that make sense? Okay. Sorry. Hi, Amy. Thank you so much. Amy says, I knew Heidi was off when she got divorced from Chris. 2 divorces before 40. Yikes. Then Dave, then the new man. What happened to putting her kids first? Think she's the drama, especially after seeing your videos. That's putting it lightly. That is putting it lightly about Heidi Powell. Heidi is a teenager in a 42-year-old's body, and she refuses to seek actual help, which, we can all see this relationship she's now plastering all over social media is doomed, right? Like, we all know that. Like, it's definitely heading for disaster because of the way that she's saying things in her captions. So, yeah, maybe, like I said, a quick update on her would be nice.
My boyfriend.
That's all she says now. And he's the best guy ever. She's forgotten all about Dave now. Well, that's not true. She still talks about Dave when it seems like she's mad at her new boyfriend. Then all of a sudden she's posting like memories of him, which is also horrible.
There's nothing more whole than a broken heart.
Feels like penis.
That's what she's saying.
Am I attracted to men or women?
Good questions.
Horrors.
Sorry. Okay, this is fact check. Contrary to a popular myth, psychiatrists routinely look at the brain for some aspects of patient care. For instance, PET is increasingly used for dementia assessment, and MRI is recommended for some patients with new onset psychosis. Okay, there's a fact check for you. Thank you, Amy, by the way.
Think about that.
Is that true?
That is absolutely true, that they still make diagnoses based on symptom clusters, the DSM, that has no neuroscience in it. They make diagnoses based on symptom clusters with no biological data, exactly like they did with Abraham.
Check on the screen. I use PubMed daily.
Yes, Merva Bell 2 says, appreciate the PMID number as part of the fact check on the screen. Now, in this interview, Dr. Amen will say he's written PubMed articles, like 10 or so, or no, like 50 or something. And apparently that was a lie. I don't know if they're going to fact check it in this, but he's written opinion pieces or like certain things in PubMed, but it was way less than it actually that he claims. And it was also not studies. It was, I guess you can write some sort of like I have an idea and I'm putting it on PubMed. Anyways, so yes, so you can go look that up. I'm too dumb to be able to read all of them, to be honest. I tried at one point when I was really into like debunking wellness stuff, and I would try to start reading these studies. I'm like, you know?
I still have dyslexia.
That's what I felt like, so I stopped. But anyways.
Lincoln in 1841. So think about that.
Yeah,
right?
why is that?
Sorry. That's also his marketing tactic. I'm the only one who looks at the brain. No one else does. And psychiatry hasn't changed since Abraham Lincoln was getting treatment. It's like, okay, we get it.
With no biological data, exactly like they did with Abraham Lincoln in 1841. So think about that.
Yeah,
right?
why is that?
Because it's the paradigm that feeds the pharmaceutical industry. It doesn't feed outcomes because our outcomes are not better than they were in the 1950s, the year I was born.
How are you? Where is the, like, in terms of more people being sick or people not being helped?
More people being sick. And if you are sick, your ability to get better, right? Imipramine was released in the 1950s. We don't have antidepressants that are more effective. Now, we have ones with fewer side effects, but not more efficacy. Thorazine was released in the 1950s. Ritalin was released in the 1950s.
Oh my.
Why?
Hold on, I have a demonic light switch going off right now, so let me just turn it off. Give me 1 second. Thank you. I just had to do some light language really fast to stop this entity. Okay, now we're all healed. Thank you so much.
And so I asked the question, and when I was growing up, my dad had two favorite phrases. Bullshit was his first one. Like everything was bullshit. And no, bullshit, no.
And delete my trash today. Apparently, we're going to get a little bit of freezing every so often. Sorry about that. I'll keep my eye on it.
And so when I'm like, well, why aren't we looking? They go, well, it's the future. And I'm like, bullshit. No, we should do it now. There's technology now. And
Lord, have mercy. Let me watch this in peace.
1991, I went to a lecture on the imaging study we do at Amen Clinics. I have 11 clinics around the country. It's called Brain SPECT Imaging. SPECT is a nuclear medicine study that looks at blood.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure you have to, I mean, I think it's obvious that there's some radiation, but I also think you have to get an injection to do this, where it's like doing so it can give you a scan, which is not dangerous inherently, but it's a seemingly unnecessary step because, like I said, he basically will do an interview as you would do with any new psychiatric patient, and you do trial and error like any other one. And so you're now having to inject toxins, and as they would say, into your body unnecessarily. That's another downside.
Blood flow and activity. It looks at how your brain works. And
how's that different from functional MRI?
So functional MRI is harder. You have to catch that difference in brain activity. SPECT actually gives you a look at how the brain works over time. So it looks at about a 2-minute snapshot of brain activity, but it happens to be very consistent over your lifetime, unless you do things to change your brain. And so now we have almost 300,000 scans we've done on people from 155 countries. And literally, it changed everything in my life from the time I go to bed. Because what I realize, most psychiatric illnesses are not mental health issues.
He really is a good storyteller and a simplifying the complicated type of marketer, but that's it. And again, do you want to pay thousands of dollars extra because this guy is a smooth talker?
No.
No. No.
They're brain health issues. Get your brain healthy and your mind will follow. And so when you...
How is that? What's the difference between mental versus
So if you
brain?
think of it as mental health, so number one, no one wants to be called mental, right? Because it shames you. It's stigmatizing and it's sort of about you. When it's brain health, well, everybody wants it. And if it's mental health, okay, diagnoses, symptom clusters, let's do this medicine or that medicine, right? As a family doctor, you treat more psychiatric patients than most psychiatrists. It's like almost half of the patients that come see you are stressed, they're not sleeping, they're anxious or depressed.
Especially my pain patients.
And the tools you have in a limited office visit is medicine. And yeah, it's like, okay, symptom clusters, medicine or therapy, and then I'll see you back. Where if it's brain health, you have to lose weight because I published 3 studies.
Oh yeah, he hates overweight people, by the way. He says he'll go on a plane and sit next to someone who's overweight in his mind, and he tells them that, you know, they're ruining their brain for being the way they are. That's something that he's very strong. And wow, he's so alone in that from saying that from an influencer, wellness influencer standpoint. Now, this part, I think there is legs to it where brain health versus mental health, I think there could be like a reworking or like a PR type of narrative that you could fix. Because I do agree, people saying you're mentally ill feels really shameful, but to say something's wrong with your brain, it seems a little bit, it's more like, oh, I broke my leg. It's like, oh, something's wrong with my brain, I need to fix it, there's an issue within it. But again, I don't think taking a supplement and getting a brain scan is fixing it. I think that's more of just a way to look at it and a way to speak about it. Now, if he did that in his office, great. But again, nothing else changes. That could just be his way to lessen the stigma for his patients.
Studies on 33,000 people that show as your weight goes up, the size and function of
He's bored out of his mind. Literally, bored out of his brain.
your brain goes down. Should scare the fat off anyone. You have to get your diabetes under control. You need to go to bed. Alcohol is not a health food, and marijuana is not innocuous. So what you begin every patient, this is not true if it's sort of a mental health issue. If it's a brain health issue, you have to ask yourself, whatever you're doing today, is it good or bad for your brain? So it's a completely different paradigm and a completely different discussion.
I think it could be both also. I think it could be sleeping, less weed, less drinking, less stress, and also dealing with the issues, emotional, and getting on an anti-depression medication or whatever. It could be both, and it should be both.
I'm trying to think of how I go about seeing a patient that perhaps has a psychiatric concern or maybe even doesn't and doesn't realize that they have a psychiatric situation going on. Obviously doing the symptom clusters, the checklists, the PHQ-9s, all of these GAD-7s that they fill out. And then you're right, it's either therapy or medication, a combination of medication, and then see you later, especially with our broken healthcare system. It's near impossible for anyone with not the greatest insurance or paying cash to even get therapy, let alone quality therapy.
And I agree with that too. Just because this guy I think is wrong doesn't mean that the other system is great either. I agree with that. But I don't think, well, what do they call it? Where it's like a zero-sum game. You have to pick one or the other, Dr. Amen or the broken healthcare system. I think we can hold both truths, that there's problems in the traditional way and there's also problems with grifting and selling supplements and lying to people.
So I see that happening. But the idea of weight loss and getting their diabetes under control, to me as a family medicine doctor, especially as a DO who thinks very holistically, that is almost always included in my mental health portfolio. Is it just because I'm automatically thinking about mental health as brain health?
No, it's because you're rare. That very few family doctors go, you're depressed.
Again, according to him, how many family doctors does he go to across the country? I mean, this is just his 2 cents because he makes money if you go to him.
Could be from the inflammation you're creating from the extra weight and the ultra processed food. It's you're depressed, that means you need an SSRI. And you know, the serotonin hypothesis for depression, it's not well supported.
Oh, for sure. And we've gone back and forth on, is it receptor modulation?
But you see, I don't think depression should be an illness. I think depression is like chest pain. Nobody gets a diagnosis of chest pain. Why?
That's in my ICD-10 diagnosis.
Well, yes, but nobody gets, no thoughtful cardiologist goes, that's your problem. You have chest pain. It's a symptom. Depression is a symptom that has many different causes. And there's certain brain patterns that respond to SSRIs, especially if you have increased activity in an area of the brain called the subgenual cingulate gyrus. So yes, SSRIs work for that. But what if you have low activity in that part of the brain? SSRIs can make you violent or suicidal. And they're black box.
Okay, here's another fact check. Violence is not mentioned on the black box warnings for SSRIs. Okay. And there's an undertone here, I'm sure you're picking up on it, that he would prefer not to have anyone on an SSRI, that you should just go for a walk, lose weight, smile more. That is the tone I'm getting from him. And it makes sense for many reasons, but I think he would prefer you to take his saffron supplement and just depression's not real. Is the vibe I'm getting, which is sad from a psychiatrist.
That part of the brain. SSRIs can make you violent or suicidal. And there are black box warnings on SSRIs. There are black box warnings on every psychiatric drug because depression can happen from a head injury, like you had a whiplash injury, so you never even really thought you had a head injury. It could come from toxic exposure, like lead or heavy metal or mold. It could come because your brain works too hard from Lyme.
That's me. My brain works too hard.
Lyme disease, or not hard enough. And so the standard, your PHQ-9 is elevated. So here's an antidepressant plus therapy, or one or the other. And I'm like, well, why are you depressed? And that's not the question people really ask.
Yeah, that's not the question people ask. Okay, sure. Fact check. While individual situations may vary, psychiatrists are explicitly trained in figuring out why you are depressed. I was going to say, like, that's like question number 1. Or why do you think, or why do you feel? Using the biopsychosocial model, a proper assessment of a patient's case cannot be presented without this information. I don't think, and again, I think psychiatrists, in my experience, at least in Florida, it was a little different when I moved. The psychiatrist I have now is much more like asking me questions, which is rare. But in Florida, they were like, get in, get out, get in, get out. But I was in therapy and I told them I was in therapy. So they assume, I guess, that I'm doing it there. They're just asking my symptoms and how long I've been on certain medications and blah, blah, blah. But no one's ever said, well, there's no reason why just take the pills and there's nothing more to be done here. That's never been my experience. It's always been, okay, this is a helpful tool and now there's more to explore. There's more to figure out where it's coming from. Thank you again. Thank you so much to Amy LX8RN. Dono for cat treats and Gucci collars for the cat. Oh, Taro, you want a Gucci collar? She said, yes, yes. I'll bring her up here in 15 minutes when she gets her food because I know she's going to be jumping off and scratching my eyeballs out once the food bowl drops. So I'll bring her up after that, though. And for you, Amy, welcome once again. You are officially in the cult.
Why does this sound cult every second?
No, we're not a cult.
Oh, okay. Cult.
We're not a cult.
Oh, it's a cult.
And you're very welcome to join it. Okay, back to it.
I'm curious about the chicken or the egg scenario with the weight and poor diet. I have patients that I believe that there's a component of their weight, their diet, their choices in life are impacting their feelings, leading to the symptom of depression. Because technically, I don't diagnose someone with depression. I diagnose them with major depressive disorder or dysthymia, some kind of more DSM appropriate diagnosis. So how do I know, is this a symptom or a sign of them having major depressive disorder leading to unhealthy eating? Or is it the other way around, that the unhealthy eating is causing those symptoms?
Great question. He's going to be like, I guess his prediction is going to be like, well, it's obvious. If you're overweight, you're unhealthy. And you're unhealthy and you're unhappy.
Well, I would think we should look at their brain before we go about changing it. And then I think a really good detailed history will give you a good idea. Now, if you can't get a scan, look at their ACE score. And I don't know if you do that
Adverse
routinely.
experiences.
But I published a study last year on 7,500 patients looking at adverse childhood experiences. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how many bad things happened to you as a child? And so if you have increased trauma, you have increased activity in your limbic or emotional brain, or when we talk about the pain book, in the suffering pathway of the brain. So you're more likely to eat simple carbohydrate foods because that raises serotonin.
Oh, yeah.
If you can get an insulin response, then it raises tryptophan in the brain and serotonin, and you feel happy. Now, you don't feel happy really. You feel happy
temporary
for the, you
boost,
feel
yeah.
happy for the
Until
moment.
the next
right. I want my patients to feel good now and later versus now but
without
not
the
later.
negative effects of overeating.
Without the negative effects.
So in
Quite
these scenarios,
that answer. So look at the brain, and then it'll tell you that they're overeating. I don't get it.
when let's say they have elevated ACE scores and as a result they're having worse lifestyle changes, how does the imaging
show that?
Getting the imaging improve that level of treatment?
Yeah.
Because
Good question.
say I have a patient who has a high ACE score, who's consuming a lot of foods. We would be discussing the consumption of those foods as part of their metabolic workup, knowing that there's an added benefit to their mental health state, but it would be primarily focused from a metabolic standpoint. So what does the imaging add to it?
So many different things. The first thing it adds
Okay. So many. Like, I can't even name them all. Just sit silently.
is compliance, because people see their brain, they begin to have a relationship with their brain, and they want it to be better.
Okay, so bullshit. Like your dad's favorite word. It's compliance, because now I have a picture of my brain, allegedly. I'm going to be more compliant because now I've seen my brain in a pretty rainbow image. Okay, not convinced that that's worth thousands of dollars.
Okay.
So it's the reason
It's showing them a bad EKG when they're having chest pain.
or high liver function tests,
Right.
and they're drinking
For
too
fatty
much,
liver, sure.
right? In 66% of the time, if you show them an abnormal lab test, they want to do something to make it better. But now, so when I did my first scan, it was 1991, I scanned my mom the week before, and her brain was beautiful, and mine wasn't. And I developed a concept I call brain envy.
Oedipus complex, Oedipus complex for the brain. He's also told this story a million times. This is a one-hit wonder kind of guy. He's got his greatest hits. He's going through the Abraham Lincoln, you have to look at the organ to understand what's going on. My mother had the perfect brain. I had brain envy. He thinks it's so funny. He thinks that is like a psychiatry joke for the ages. Asari Shepherd. Welcome, Asari Shepherd, as always. Asari says, well, I'm dating my brain. Are you in love with it? Hey, brain. You wanna go on a train to Love Town? Oh, so slimy. And you're so smart, too. get CTE, put a helmet on. Better protect yourself. I'm gonna get angry.
Don't you dare get married.
Taro says, what the frick? That's for you, sorry.
I want to go to Denny's with you.
Freud was wrong. Penis envy is not the cause of anybody's problem. Brain envy, right? That's the organ where size really does matter. You want a healthier brain. And
You want a big ass brain? I'm qualified, finally. I got something people want. A giant head. My brain's big in there. Right? She's like, I don't care.
You're a loser.
Not you. Never. That's not you. Talking about myself. Thank you, Asari. Asari says, yes, I love it. Well, hey. Well, hey, girl. I got this to say. Oops. I got this to say.
I love myself so much.
True. Okay.
I just wanted my brain to be better. So that leads to a cascades of decisions. If you go, is this good for my brain or bad for it? So that's the first thing that I fell in love with imaging, compliance, and it decreases stigma. And it gives you as a physician targets to go after. Is the brain overactive? So I need to calm it down. And from a medicine standpoint, SSRIs or anticonvulsant medications calm it down. But if it's low in activity to start and you calm it down, you've just disinhibited that person, which can be
Well, there's some
problematic.
activating antidepressants. Wellbutrin is a common option.
But how would you know where to start?
Well, based on symptoms and what they're
Based on
experiencing.
symptoms. But what other specialty in medicine
Again, here comes his famous line.
acts without imaging?
I don't know if that's a valuable question, though. Because not every specialty.
He's angry.
This is just stupid.
This person's pissed.
This man is one of the greatest innovators and creative geniuses of all time.
That's what he thinks about himself. He's angry.
He's going to have equivalent need for imaging. For example, for me to make a diagnosis of a UTI, I don't need any imaging or any
But
lab
you need
tests.
a lab test.
You don't. It's a clinical diagnosis. So if someone has symptoms, dysuria, suprapubic pain on a physical exam, perhaps CVA tenderness, I can make that diagnosis. I technically don't need the tests. There are in moments where it's valuable to get a test if you're concerned about a kidney stone, if you're worried about someone who has a high risk UTI, like someone in pregnancy, so you'd need to get a urine culture to confirm sensitivity. So there's a lot of these specifics, but I'm interested in your reasoning, the compliance, the stigma. I think those are
And
really
the roadmap.
And the roadmap of treating to some outcome. So now I'm curious about the compliance.
He looks so angry. I love it. He's like, wait, you're not buying this bullshit like everyone else I talked to? I don't know why he agreed to do this. I wonder if whoever his, assistant is or PR person is didn't do their research that he was about to be on a show. He probably just heard, oh, he's got millions of followers. Oh, he's a doctor. Oh, he's got a TikTok. Oh, this guy's going to love me. And just went on the show because he seems unprepared for the actual real questions. And he's been on, like he usually does, Dr. Amen usually does a live stream with people like Miley Cyrus. That's what he's used to, and Rachel Hollis, like Mel Robbins, who are never going to question it. They're going to go, you are a god. Thank you for this free service, and plug whatever bullshit he's got. I really don't think he knew he was walking into an actual journalistic, critical thinking type of conversation. And I love it because he's looking angry.
Portion of that. Not every patient is going to have access to imaging, just simply because of the nature of our healthcare system. It sucks. A lot of people can't afford even basic medications. The other day, I prescribed clindamycin for a patient, and their insurance denied it because I sent capsules, not tablets. Just some ridiculous notion, which is typical for our system. So when I think about our system and who I treat, especially in a community health center, I think about those people who can get imaging, and then the worry that it instills in them as if I'm treating them badly because they will view our podcast or they'll hear a news story about the need for imaging and that we're functioning basically as we're blind. And then those people feel like they can't get care from me or their psychiatrist. Do you worry
He's like, great, they can come to my office and pay triple the price. That's what I want. Duh.
about that outcome?
So from the beginning of the time I've done imaging, and that's why I write. That's why online you can take our brain health assessment, know what, based on our work, what type of brain you have. You have a balanced brain, a spontaneous brain, that's my ADD group, a persistent brain, my OCD group, sensitive or cautious brain. So these symptoms tend to go with
Okay, but I don't need a scan to know that. So what's the point of the scan?
these patterns. So I think people can benefit from my work for free, right? They can go to the library and get Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain, or Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, or any of the 40 books I've written, or they can listen to our podcast. And so there's so many people everywhere I go, people go, your work changed my life, and they never got a scan. But
So the scan isn't necessary?
But I would argue
Yeah, good question.
psychiatry is broken, and we need to be viewed as a real medical specialty with imaging, because if you don't look, you don't know. So, for example,
Don't know what.
one of the big lessons is mild traumatic brain injury is a major cause.
Okay, here's a fact check. Mild TBI, traumatic brain injury, is an important risk factor for depression, anxiety, PTSD, and other symptoms in some people. The DSM has explicit categories like neurocognitive disorder due to traumatic brain injury, and there are entire psychiatry and neuropsychology guidelines, toolkits, and textbooks for working with TBI patients. Okay, so I guess he's going to claim that regular psychiatrists don't factor this in, which I guess is they're saying with this text that that's not true. But yeah, I think the original question was, do you fear your fear-mongering anti-traditional psychiatry is stigmatizing, a thing that he claims to be against, stigmatizing people away from going to a regular psychiatrist because of your rhetoric online saying, if you don't scan the brain, you're flying blind? Fair question. He's not quite answering it.
Of psychiatric problems, and nobody knows it because psychiatrists don't look at the brain, or family doctors don't look at the brain in this person who's having problems with domestic violence, or this person who's been incarcerated 3 times, or this person that is homeless. And no one's thinking, did that car accident damage their brain?
So are psychiatrists who are not using brain imaging, by functioning without looking, are they doing a disservice to their patients?
I think they're flying blind, and they're missing so much that could be gotten from imaging.
Like
is
what?
your brain hurt? Is it toxic? Is it overactive? Is it underactive? Like, I'm a psychiatrist. Why do I care about Lyme disease? Because it's a major cause of psychiatric.
Because that's what all the people who have chronic pain that they can't explain and won't go to a therapist claim to have. I'm sorry to say. Not everybody. Lyme disease is a real thing, but there's a lot of people out there that claim to have chronic Lyme disease that are making it up or have been told they have it as a reason for everything going wrong in their life. I had to say it. I'm sorry.
Psychiatric problems. Yeah, I think as a profession, we can do so much better.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned...
And that's why in medical school, psychiatry is sort of looked down on. It's like, really? That's
well, is it
soft.
looked down upon because it's the lowest reimbursed field out of all of the specialties?
No, I don't think so. I think it's looked down
family
on.
medicine, pediatrics, and psychiatry are the lowest ranked fields. And they're the lowest
those were
paying
the 3
fields.
I was interested in when I was in medical.
So he made up for the lack of payment from a hospital and decided to grift instead.
Student, because it wasn't about the money. It was about where I could do the most good.
Sure.
Where
Well, we definitely need the most help in those specialties. Because I think a good primary care system is the backbone. I don't know if you agree.
Absolutely.
To a good healthcare system.
No, you should have a wonderful family medicine doctor, but most people use the emergency room
or urgent cares,
or
which there's no continuity, and it's
right.
just
the relationship.
Yeah.
And I trained in the early '80s before managed care took over medicine, and I'm so grateful that I did, because in the early '90s, psychiatrists became the prescriber, and they just ruined the profession. Like for me, I was taught to do family therapy and group therapy and individual therapy. And medicine was just sort of a part of what I did. And I wouldn't be happy if I was the prescriber.
Probably in the same way that I can relate to that in being a family medicine doctor, there are a subset of family doctors who have trained to be referrologists. Who, oh, you have high blood pressure? Here's a cardiology referral. Oh, you have a UTI? Here's a urology referral. You don't need to do that. I constantly have to remind my residents that 90% of all medical ailments can be handled by a primary care doctor. And there are subsets that are complex, that require specialist intervention, procedures. We don't do colonoscopies as a simple one, surgeries. So there's a lot we can handle. And I think there needs to be improvement across all these fields, especially in the area of education. So much how you're talking about the prescriber, I'm talking about the referrer in that.
No,
regard.
I love that. It's the first time I heard that term. Yeah. And it's like, no, that's not why we went to medical school.
Correct.
Right?
And
we had to take all of those rotations.
Exactly. And we forget them because it's easy to just refer. It also shifts the legal concern. Oh, well, I sent you to the cardiologist. They made the decision. It takes the decision-making pressure off me. So I don't like that in terms of practicing medicine that way. So I agree with you in that regard. You mentioned some of these brain classifications that you do to see if someone has a ADHD type brain. We have all of these validated PHQ-9s, GAD-7s, Vanderbilt, MCHATs. These are questionnaires we give to patients. Sometimes we give them to parents, to teachers. Do you not like those ways that we make
give
diagnoses?
them to our patients? But
I mean, yeah, so he's talking about questionnaires. So, and this is what he's saying is not enough to diagnose psychiatric problems. But he gives them out himself, but then says, well, we also do the scanning, but I think the scanning is useless and just a gimmick. And they're really using the traditional questionnaire about your family history and your symptoms like every other psychiatrist does. And they have it on the website, and it's extensive. It takes I think, because we watched people who got these scans. They did YouTube videos. It said it took them like 48 hours to fill out all the questions. Now, they took time, in between, but it wasn't like a quick little thing because he's got the advanced technology that you don't need it. It's like they're asking quite a lot, which gives them a lot of backup to support whatever they want the scans to say.
Depression is clearly not one thing. Anxiety disorders are clearly not one thing. Now, you get a high GAD-7. So what do you do with that? Do you give them a benzo that's addictive, that increases their risk of dementia?
I mean, that's out of standard care.
You don't, but
that's out of standard care.
27%.
Okay. Let's see. Let's listen.
Of all doctor visits, someone's getting a benzo. This is
poor medical care.
Insanity.
But that's not what the agencies recommend, right? If we were to go on to the APA or any of these organizations, they wouldn't say that that's standard care.
Okay,
to go on to.
Let's read the fact check. In a JAMA serial cross-sectional study of 386,457 ambulatory care visits from 2003 through 2015, the use of benzodiazepines in ambulatory care increased substantially from 3.8% to 7.4% of visits. Okay.
Poor medical.
Okay, and before we go to the next fact check, thank you so much to Samantha Tribble, and also, that's it. Only exclusively to Samantha Tribble, 85857. Thank you so much. Samantha says, if there's time this week or in the near future, can we check in with medical medium? Is this not medical medium for you? Is this not a medical medium? No, this is medical easy. He's just an easygoing guy. He just wants to scan your brain. That's all. No, I agree. I was just thinking, it also says, also hope you and yours have happy holidays. You as well, Samantha. Thank you so much. Oh my God.
She's savage. Her charisma is straight up off the charts.
That's you. That is for you. That is true. Yeah, let's do it. I was just reading an email from Medical Medium about why the real reason you crave certain things, and it's because angels or something. So I would love to check in with him. I hate him the most. I think out of every person I've ever talked about on this channel, he is maybe the top most despised by me of all.
Most everybody has either been on eggs when they're younger or they're on eggs later. Gonna have to actually drink a little celery juice. Keep me going here. Got my celery juice right here. Nobody blames the egg.
That's my Medical Medium soundboard. Thank you very much. Yes, let's do it. I'll figure out when. We'll do Heidi, Powell, and Medical Medium. It'll be like a throwback episode. I will let you know when.
Insanity.
But that's not what the agencies recommend, right? If we were to go on to the APA or any of these organizations, they wouldn't say that that's standard.
I mean, hopefully you teach.
And it says, based on the CDC's NAMCS reports from 2014-2016, benzodiazepines were prescribed 8 to 9% of all adult doctor visits included a benzodiazepine prescription.
Teach them diaphragmatic breathing. You give them things like theanine, maybe from a medicine standpoint, propranolol. But that's not.
I mean,
what
now we're
we
even
see.
introducing allergy medication for people who have anxiety. So
yeah, the antihistamines
yeah.
that also increase the risk of dementia.
Yeah, for sure. Overuse a lot of it. But I mean, every medication has some sort of trade-off.
Right, but
not mine, not my supplements. No, they're perfect. My ginseng turmeric supplements are totally. I love his facial expression. I'm about to say something off the cuff. Okay, let's go back for just a quick second.
Every medication has some sort of trade-off.
Right, but teaching someone not to believe every stupid thing they think and teaching them diaphragmatic breathing, no side effects, no increased risk of dementia, probably decrease the risk.
It sounds like you're a fan of therapy, of cognitive behavioral therapy. Are you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think family doctors, if they just learn some of the basic principles, right? I talk about killing the ants, the automatic negative thoughts that steal your happiness. Whenever you feel sad, mad, nervous, or out of control, write down what you're thinking and just ask yourself whether or not it's true. And in the book, part of the doom loop is an invasion of ants, these automatic negative thoughts. And there's nowhere in school where we teach kids not to believe every stupid thing they think.
This is also one of his greatest hits. He talks about this on every interview. I think he would be an okay doctor, an okay psychiatrist for people who really don't have severe problems, for people who are just struggling at a temporary time of their life. They might be stressed of work, about something going on, a breakup, something that's not life-altering. But for people who actually need serious psychiatric care, this shit ain't gonna work, okay? This shit ain't gonna work. I will tell you this now. So I think it's important to stress that to people if you're giving this type of information. This is for the 50% of the world that is just doing pretty good. The rest that actually, which is the hard thing to say, because if you're seeking out psychiatric care, you don't know which one you're in necessarily. Sometimes you will and sometimes you won't. So he is like the middle class version of doctor, like the lower and the, I don't know what I'm trying to say in this case, but like he's not for severe cases or even moderate cases. He's for the very, very, very lightly mentally ill. Which I like to feel like a part of sometimes, but we always dip our toe in the moderate pool sometimes. Okay, I don't know, I'm just going off on a tangent. Thank you to Nachama Gluck. Thank you so much. I'm coughing, I'm having a brain aneurysm probably. Who knows, I need to get a scan. Hi, I just got here. What's the T on the brain? The brain needs to be scanned, and if you no scan, you fly blind. We don't know why it happens. You need to make sure no ants in your brain. Come to my clinic. I will give you scan for $5,000. It will be great. That's what you missed. That's what you missed.
Time for me, you, and all the nations to get us some elevation. Woo!
Woo!
I took a pill in Ibiza. No, I didn't take any pills.
Uh-oh. Amen. Yippee. Oh, my.
As you laugh while you're getting ready for bed, instead of praying to God, you're praying, I'm dead.
That's medical BDM also. Thank you, Nachima Gluck. Back to it. Talk to it.
I was 28 years old in my psychiatric residency when one of our professors said, you have to teach your patients not to believe every stupid thing they think. And I'm like, but I believe every stupid thing I think.
Revolutionary idea.
Right?
Probably
It's
at the moment.
but that's such an important concept. You know, if patients came in knowing how to manage their minds, they're going to have a lot less back pain. They're going to have a lot less neck pain because negative thinking goes to more tension, which then leads to more pain.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on the channel. Are you familiar with Dr. Sarno's work?
Love Dr. Sarno's work.
Same.
I talk about
Oh,
him
really?
in the
Okay.
new book because what he basically says is chronic pain is repressed rage. But he doesn't do a great job of helping people get rid of the rage. And so in the book, Pollyanna actually meets Hannibal Lecter because you have to have a mechanism to get in touch and express the rage in an appropriate way while you're directing your mind to what's right rather than what's wrong.
Yeah, I think he was ahead of his time to some degree, and people will point out flaws of, he had this theory of increased muscle spasms due to decreased blood flow to a specific area. And when that was somewhat disproven or questionable, they threw out all his theories. And I feel like as someone who's practiced medicine for over a decade, I've seen his theories play out, not just from I see this happening with my patient, but direct intervention in handling anxiety, stress, childhood traumas, just discussion of those issues leading to elbow pain going away. So I believe that there's definitely a variable there. Sometimes it's hard to get patients on board, though. I've had patients get very offended at me when I say, hey, what's going on in your life emotionally? What was your upbringing like? And they'll say, why the hell are you asking me this? And I explain, they say, well, you're one of these asshole doctors that just wants to blame it on me. And I say, no, quite the opposite. I'm explaining that you have an internal regulator that basically dials up volume when you're stressed, as it's supposed to as part of its survival mechanism, and then down regulates it when they're having a good time. Because you just told me that your pain is only there when you're working, but not when you're having fun with your friends. But it's still sometimes hard to get buy-in. What's your strategy on getting that buy-in?
People say, oh, well, you think it's all in my head. Well, absolutely. But it's in your brain, which is in your head. That if you've had pain for more than a couple of weeks, that now has a signature in your brain. And if we don't get your brain healthy, the pain's going to stick around. And one of the reasons I wrote Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain, I'm 71, is I just got tired of being in pain all the time. It was my
Hawk it, boy. Hawk it, doctor. Gotta get that book out there. Bestseller list. Sorry.
Change Your Pain, I'm 71, is I just got tired of being in pain all the time. It was my back, it was my knee, it was my neck, it was my hip. And I'm like, what is going on? So read Sarno's work, started looking at the scans of our patients in chronic pain. And I'm like, oh, pain gets stuck in your brain. And the ones...
Show me what that looks like in a scan. What part of the rainbow does that show? The pain being stuck from my childhood trauma. I want to know and I want to see it. And there is no way to see that, obviously.
Study that just completely blew my mind was 80% of people my age have abnormal backs who have no pain.
Oh yeah, that's
who have
the classic
no
example.
Pain.
Why try and talk patients out of MRIs for their spines just because?
And what I have found that when people go get them after I teach them this, their abnormal neck doesn't freak them out, so they automatically go get surgery. They go, oh, 70% of people my age have abnormal necks who have no pain. So it means your body can figure out how to heal around the arthritis in your neck or the crushed disc in your neck. And that's so freeing to me. And it's like, if I calm my brain down, my pain's going to be less. And now I'm in no pain at all, which I dearly love, because it doesn't freak me out if I wake up and my neck is sore.
Sure. What do you say to patients? Because I've had this end up even with the patient filing a complaint against me. I have a whole video on the channel about it, where I was trying to discourage the patient from getting an MRI for low back pain that I believed not to be from a spinal cause based on my physical exam, the history of present illness. And I felt like there was an emotional component. I introduced it. I asked how they feel about that. They said, I still want the MRI. I said, I'm happy to order the MRI, but I'm just explaining that if we find something on this MRI, we're likely to end up chasing it when it's not the cause. And she didn't like that answer. So I'm curious how you go about avoiding unnecessary imaging in those cases.
Well, he loves imaging, so he's not going to say any imaging of the brain is unnecessary.
I'm a huge fan of informed consent. This is,
I'm glad to hear it.
Do we agree on what the problem is? So back pain. Okay, you have back pain. Here are the things we can do. And here are the pros and cons of those things. What do you want to do? You decide.
Okay, I'm no doctor, and I guess I understand what he's saying, but like the point is for me to go to the doctor to get their expert advice. I feel like it is important to listen to what they're saying. Now, are they always right all the time? No, but it must be a hard... it's not just it must be. It is a hard profession. It's hard to be a patient. It's hard to be a doctor. I don't know how people do it, honestly. And I'm not really adding anything to the conversation here, but I see both sides of it. I see a patient. I hear people go and they say, I want to scan. The doctor says, no, you don't need that. And it turns out they have something that they could have detected on a scan. It's frustrating, especially when you make an appointment and you can't get in again for several months. And now you've just wasted all this time. But also as a trained professional, someone's, coming in and asking for all these things. And what's probably going on likely is not going to be solved by an MRI scan. Like, how do you talk that person out of it without disrupting their mind? I don't know. It's hard because you're playing with statistics here, but also each person has their own individual story. It's difficult.
And if I've done a good job of connecting with them, generally they'll choose what my recommendation is, but not always. And as long as it's not irrational, I feel like I work for my patients. I don't work for the insurance companies. I work for my patients. And generally that works out for me. Mm-hmm. And I think works out for my patient, because if they do something that, I don't think I would have done it, and it doesn't work, they trust me because they feel like I'm their partner.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying perhaps I didn't form a good doctor-patient alliance with this patient.
So alliance is so important. I mean, I don't know, because I wasn't there, and you probably were as kind and empathetic and listening as you could have been. One of the things I learned is, and I guess I'm free associating, you have to ask patients 10 times whether or not they've ever had a brain injury. Shocking to me. So I start imaging. I'm like, oh, have you ever had a brain injury? You can see the damage to the left front and to their anterior temporal poles. It's a sign of traumatic brain injury. And they go, no. I'm like, well, are you sure? Have you ever fallen out of a tree, fell off a fence, dove into a shallow pool, had a concussion playing sports, been in a car accident? No, 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 no. Oh, it's always no, no, no. Oh, I fell out of a second-story window when I was 7. Do you think that counts? Or I fell out of a moving vehicle going 30 miles an hour. Do you think that counts? And I just think it's one of the major causes of psychiatric problems.
So when you have a patient that you come across...
Falling out of windows is a cause of major psychiatric problem. Maybe he's right. Who's to say? I don't think you can really I don't know.
Us with a history of falling out of a window when they're 7. How do you alter your approach to treating that patient?
Good point, because even if you found out like this person didn't think that this traumatic brain injury or whatever he's calling it, brain damage, was affecting them very much since he was 7 years old. So it's not like you can go and do brain surgery repair, like, oh, I'm going to go in and like do a surgery and put your brain back together. It is going to be treat the symptom anyways. So good point. Finding that out, what does it actually do for you?
Well, we go repair the brain injury, right? If you don't do that,
How?
then they're going to be living with chronic whatever, depression, irritability.
Not surgically.
No, I put them in a hyperbaric chamber. So I did the big.
Okay, hyperbaric chamber. There's a lot. That's definitely, I think, in a woo-woo type of thing. At least it's become that way, where it's a cure-all, and it's very common in these clinic wellness spa places. They got the hyperbaric chamber. I don't know much about it. I think they're overhyped, and I'm assuming that's what this fact check's going to say. Okay, it says collectively available evidence does not support the use of hyperbaric oxygen therapy as an off-label or evidence-based therapy for traumatic brain injuries or post-concussion symptoms in military service members or civilian populations. And there's a PubMed ID number.
The NFL study, when the NFL was sort of lying, it had a problem with traumatic brain injury in football, right? Everybody knows CTE. And they had the wrong thoughts on CTE, which we could talk about. But in 1999, Brent Boyd was offensive guard for the Minnesota Vikings, came to see me, clearly had traumatic brain injury on scans. And by then, I'd already been scanning people for 8 years. He filed a workers' comp claim. The NFL said he was faking and called me a quack and just completely dismissed it. Well, in 2007, Anthony Davis, the Hall of Fame running back from USC, came to see me. His brain at 54 looked like he was 94. But 5 months later, he's dramatically better. And we partnered with the NFL Players Association in Los Angeles, published the first largest study on 100 active and retired NFL players, high levels of damage. But 80% of our players got better. We put them on a really good multiple vitamin, high dose, high quality fish oil, and a brain supplement that works in 6 different ways.
Okay, supplements and hyperbaric oxygen. And the hyperbaric oxygen is expensive. It's like hundreds of dollars per session because they're doing it off-label, like it said. So a supplement and a hyperbaric oxygen is his cure-all. He doesn't believe in medicine, really. He believes in that stuff. Okay.
80% of our players got better. Their imaging was better. And for those that didn't, we put them in a hyperbaric chamber. And that improved our outcomes even more. So I'm really excited. So the
thing, though, that he's asking, which is, okay, you find out you have a traumatic brain injury. Okay, that could explain the impetus for the mental problems. But the solving it doesn't change because you've discovered that. Again, you're not going to go in and surgically remove the section that was damaged. All you're doing is improving your brain health, which you could do anytime. Taking a multivitamin is not, going to repair the damage. The damage is there. It's going to stay there. So I don't understand what he mean. He's kind of talking around it.
Ideas, okay, boxing, football, soccer, rugby, horseback riding, they're brain damaging sports.
Soccer?
But you can get better if you put the brain in a healing environment. So we specifically target repairing those parts of the brain. And I don't know a supplement company, so I'm a huge fan.
Duh.
But I'm also a huge fan of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Published a study on soldiers who had blast injuries.
So he says he's published a study on soldiers who had blast injuries, says fact check. While an intriguing area of research, the U.S. Department of Defense and mainstream neurologists do not endorse hyperbaric oxygen therapy as a standard treatment for TBI or PTSD due to mixed evidence.
Significant improvement after the first session and then much more after the 40th session.
You mentioned you're the owner of the supplement company. How do you protect yourself from the conflict of interest that can happen in scenarios like that?
I don't. I am interested in making a paycheck, baby.
You know, I write about the research. I love what we do. I'm so proud of what we do. So, for example, we make Happy Saffron, 28 randomized controlled trials.
Okay. Happy Saffron, that's his supplement. Fact check. Multiple small RCTs, including placebo-controlled trials with comparisons to SSRIs, have found saffron can improve mild to moderate depression with efficacy comparable to standard medications. This does not mean it is a proven replacement for an antidepressant. Psychiatrists treat them as add-ons or alternatives for milder cases. So again, if he only got people who didn't have that big of mental health problems, he's probably in the clear here. But if you have someone with actually a traumatic brain injury and actual issues that need psychiatric care, this ain't going to cut it.
30 milligrams of saffron, equally effective to antidepressants. So I think my job is just, one, tell people I own a supplement company. So
clear disclosure.
People know it. And then write about the science behind the ingredients we have. And so I always say no brand violations, that we only want high quality things that have efficacy. And I love that. So it's not a secret, right? Brain MD by Dr. Daniel Amen.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, but he makes money. Well, I'm like, no margin, no mission. It's like, that's not illegal, right? All doctors get paid for what they do.
It's a little different though, because if you're only prescribing your own company, doctors who prescribe medication they're not owning the prescription, the 100% of the money. So he really is, I don't know if it's double dipping, but kind of like he's comparing, well, other doctors, make money. Like, yes, that's true. And there's lots of issues with that, in my opinion, with the pharma, salespeople and the dinners and all that. I disagree with that as well. But I think I prefer that than someone who owns the company themselves and is incentivized to only prescribe their own company's products. That's unethical to me as a doctor.
But I love it. And after we made Happy Saffron with saffron, zinc, and curcumins, there's a brand new meta-analysis on 192 studies on 17,000 patients. Saffron effective as an antidepressant. But when you add zinc and curcumin, now this is true, if you add it to saffron or Lexapro, if you add zinc and curcumins, they actually work much better. And so I was very happy that I figured that out before.
He's a genius, you guys.
The conflict of interest portion, people always, I get this sent to me, you're a pharma shill, you prescribe medications, therefore whatever you're recommending is not good. And we hear even Secretary Kennedy of HHS now say similar things. Basically, people badmouth pharma because they're for-profit. Do you think that's unfair?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, there are other reasons to badmouth pharma.
Like what?
But we absolutely need pharmaceuticals. And for the right brain, they're incredibly effective. And if the companies didn't make money, they wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of medicine and prescribe them when I think it's appropriate. And I'm a huge fan of supplements. And why? Why did I get interested in supplements? When I started...
Because I could make more money and there's no regulations. So I could stand to profit more than the average Joe Schmo doctor.
Imaging, I realized some of the medications I was prescribing were not good for the brain. And you remember in medical school, they go first do no harm. And use the least toxic, most effective treatment. And so if omega-3 fatty acids head-to-head against Prozac were more effective in a study from New Zealand.
You always know if you're getting studies from New Zealand and that's where you got to specify, it may be Mixed results. Okay. Fact check. At present, we do not have enough high quality evidence to determine the effects of omega-3s as a treatment for MDD, major depressive disorder. We found a small to modest positive effect of them compared to placebo, but the size of this effect is unlikely to be meaningful to people with major depressive disorder, and we considered the evidence to be of low or very low certainty with many differences between studies. Okay, so that was the conclusion that of the study that he is referencing as like, this is proof and this proves my thought process and my business model. And it's like the actual conclusion was there is no evidence. Great. So he can't read, just like me.
I still have dyslexia.
Why wouldn't I start with that?
Well, it depends how severe the person's symptoms are.
Well,
if someone is having ideation, you don't want to start with omega-3s.
Well, nothing works by itself, right?
What?
If you look at the studies, there's not much that works by itself for the most severely depressed people.
Well, I think you definitely have a better chance of someone getting an SSRI or a medication than an omega-3. I would, and this study says it. You have a better chance, but okay.
And I would argue it's because often it's not only the depression, but it's the head injury that's complicating it, or it's the infection.
Okay.
Yeah.
He ran out of juice on that one. Again, the omega-3 is not going to repair an infection or a brain hole, you know? So you need to fix the symptom so people can live a fulfilling life. At a certain point, it's like, yeah, you should, I don't know, you should prescribe some stuff for people.
The infection.
And give them an omega-3 on top of it.
You mentioned
but that's why I got interested in it.
Yeah, you mentioned there are some reasons to be critical of pharma. What are those?
Well, I think that they market them nonstop. And so they almost creating the market for it.
Which is unlike your supplement business that you hawk and have already hawked several times in this very interview.
How is that different than your supplement line?
Yes.
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Supplement companies like mine don't have nearly the money that pharma has. And so...
So what? You would if you could. If you could have the money that they have, you would, and you absolutely would not change a thing.
Well, the Global Wellness Institute estimates that the wellness industry is a $2 trillion a year industry.
Okay, here's the fact check. The Global Wellness Institute, the leading nonprofit dedicated to research and education in the global wellness industry, has released new data to the U.S. On the U.S.'s fast-growing wellness economy, which is at $2 trillion, is the largest in the world. Now, what does wellness include? Supplements. I would imagine spas with services, cold plunge crap, whatever. So it's probably a big industry beyond just supplements, but still.
In the United States, and big pharma is $700 billion.
That would shock me, right? Because I own a supplement company, knowing our budget as opposed to Eli Lilly's budget. It's like we're not even talking the same thing, or even.
So he says because he's not making as big of a profit, then therefore he can do whatever he wants. That makes no sense. It's a bad excuse. There is no difference. Same thing with people who hawk wellness modalities and they say, well, big pharma's doing it for profit. It's like, what are you doing? Well, no margin, no mission. It's like that's the same fucking thing. What are you talking about? Like, it's infuriating. You are calling the kettle black.
The very large supplement companies. So I just don't know the
Yeah, well, let's take the
statistics.
numbers out of it because that needs to be fact checked. But let's say for those who want to advertise a supplement, like if I want to start my own supplement company, we have 14 million subscribers, very healthy YouTube channel, very active audience. If I wanted to start a supplement company, it wouldn't take much. I have to get someone to give me the ingredients, to create the label, send it out. But pharma has to go through trials. The FDA has to approve it. They have to spend a lot of money. Don't you think it's easier to create a supplement than it is to create a pharmaceutical?
Yes. 1,000%, yes.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely you're correct. And there are a lot of bad actors in the supplement world. So
like who?
Finding somebody you trust is important.
What's a bad actor in the supplement space?
Well, somebody
Myself.
who doesn't test the ingredients, someone who you don't feel confident what it says on the label is actually in the bottle.
So how does an average person to decide that?
Hope and pray, baby. Send a message to Jesus that they're protecting you, because there are no rules and regulations. The FDA doesn't get involved at this point. So send out fingers crossed and hope for the best.
I think they have to find brands they trust.
How?
Consumer Reports does analysis, does independent testing. There are other companies that do that.
Yeah, like Consumer Labs, Consumer Reports have done a lot of these trials, and they go to the local pharmacies. They take things that are top selling, and they find 70% of them don't have accurate ingredient lists. Shouldn't that worry people about the supplement industry?
Yes.
It should. And I think they should be cautious, careful.
And
But not
again,
yours.
I'm trying to figure out what practical advice to give them there. So how can they be cautious, careful? They can't test what's in there, which is why I think the
but they
FDA
can go
tests.
to a place like Consumer Labs and go, which are companies that are reliable, consistent. I think that's my best advice. But before I had my supplement company, I would do that and recommend certain brands for my patients.
Mm-hmm. And if, let's say, so the FDA currently doesn't look at supplements, right? But they look at the pharma industry to make sure everything is standardized, validated, efficacy rates are tested. Even if pharma markets a medication for...
He's stressed. He's blowing air. Where's Miley Cyrus when you need her? She ain't gonna ask me questions like this.
a use that it wasn't initially approved for, they get in trouble, right? They get huge fines.
The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, if you're marketing a supplement inappropriately, they'll send you a letter, they'll fine you, they'll put you out of business.
Yeah, you have to be somewhat careful, because I looked into this, into starting a supplement line. If you don't say that something clearly cures something, and you just say balanced brain, or
Yeah, there's a lot of gray area. You can basically say anything like gives you energy, makes your brain smarter, gives you more vitality. You can say whatever you want, and you can put whatever you want in it, and people just got to go, well, Kim Kardashian had this, so she looks great. I'm going to take it and hope for the best again.
or healthy energy levels, and you don't clearly say that it does that, you can get by making all sorts of claims. And historically, people have destroyed their livers with some of these supplements, the hydroxycut scandal of years ago. So there's all these it's like kind of the wild.
What is this face? It's giving Picasso abstract portrait. What is this face? I'm going back.
All sorts of claims. And historically, people have destroyed their livers with some of these supplements, the hydroxycut scandal of years ago. So there's all these it's like kind of the Wild West out there when it comes to the supplement
Yeah,
game.
but I read one study. Your chances of dying from a supplement are like 60,000 times less than dying from a medicine.
Well, it depends on what medicine and who you are, but at least you would be regulated by taking a prescription. Okay, so fact check. An estimated 23,000 emergency department visits in the U.S. every year are attributed to adverse events related to dietary supplements. Okay. I am curious where he's getting this stat from in comparison.
Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be thoughtful.
Again, like he's so vague and he's saying, well, you're more likely to die from a medicine than a supplement. So just take supplements and don't worry about it. Oh, okay. Got it.
And careful.
In what way? How can
on
you
what you put in your body.
How? But how? Go to Consumer Labs and check everything first, I guess, is what his advice is? Okay.
You absolutely should. be. But when we look at pharma and the level of death from pharmaceuticals, it's not even in the same league with some.
Yeah, okay, but I know what he's saying. But if you're taking a supplement, it's actually not doing anything. At least you're taking medicine, and it's probably making some change. So the statistics are probably saying, yes, this person was prescribed this pill because they had an illness that they were trying to treat. If they were to take a supplement, they aren't treating anything. Okay, his logic is flawed here.
Supplements.
Mm-hmm. So death is the way you judge the safety of these medications?
Well, it'd be one way.
Well, sure, but the idea that 70% of them don't have the thing in them, that's pretty problematic too. Imagine the pharmaceutical industry turned out that when we tested their medications, they didn't have what was in there. Their insulin was only present 70% of the time. That would be a big deal.
Huge.
You know, I can only speak for Brain MD, and
Sure.
I'm very proud of what we
Do
do.
you think the
Okay, good answer. Good answer, Doc. Keep the CEO message strong.
FDA should be out there randomly sampling and testing to make sure
Yes.
that these supplement companies have what's written on the label?
I think it's a good idea to police whatever people put in their bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always for that, just because right now it's, again, such a Wild West. Even Consumer Reports published recently a study of heavy metals inside protein powders and how people can be inadvertently trying to be healthy, but perhaps getting, especially if they're taking mega doses, some of these bodybuilders, scoop, 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 scoop. And before you know it, you can get a serious problem developing there. And some of the brands are very legitimate, very popular brands that you see selling quite well. So I'm always trying to figure out what's a safe recommendation that I can give universally to my patients. I'm curious, we never kind of settled on our question about the compliance issue. That you mentioned that getting these imaging tests is valuable for compliance. And I was talking about how it could potentially scare people away from seeking healthcare, from a mental health care specifically, from a provider who doesn't do imaging. Do you have any fear that you might be discouraging patients from getting good quality medical care or mental health care?
His answer is going to be no, I don't fear that, because they can come to my clinics, which are all over the United States, and that's the best. But he should, I think, because it's a fair question to ask, that he is discouraging by talking so negatively about other psychiatrists that don't do stuff the way he does them. He is discouraging, whether he means to or not, people from seeking care in an affordable way, somewhere close to their home, somewhere that's not his clinic that costs thousands of dollars out of pocket.
Just because they're not doing imaging?
Well, I guess, the question I have is, do you really get good quality brain health, mental health care if you have no idea what's going on?
Well, that's a good
in
question.
The
Yeah, maybe you can answer that.
That
Are you?
you're treating.
He thinks no.
I don't think so. I mean,
Really?
I wanted to write a book once called Flying Blind and the Reign of the American Mind.
Wow.
And,
Dark.
And I'm sort of sad I didn't.
They bleeped it, but he said RAPIG of the mind. That is dark. He is getting angry. I think that's where he's starting to say these things that are a little bit more off color, because he feels targeted and threatened because his worldview is being challenged. And as it should be, as a person who's claiming to have medical knowledge that can change your life, he should be challenged. It should not be some sort of shocking, a doctor's asking me a question that's totally legitimate and realistic and fair. It shouldn't send you into a tailspin.
Write it. I actually had a book deal for that book.
Yikes.
And I'm like, it's just too negative. But
Yeah, you
what
think?
is happening in American society today where 57% of teenage girls report being persistently sad, or that it has increased significantly in the young since the year 2000? That with all this sadness, the use of antidepressant medication has skyrocketed. 2021, there were 337 million prescriptions written for antidepressants. And we're not teaching people how to love and care for their brains or manage their minds.
by getting a scan from your clinic specifically, again, there's many reasons to be upset, and for teens and for people all over the world to be upset. There's a lot that we've lost, and there's, at least in the United States, productivity of work is at an all-time high, yet we're being pushed to work more hours and take less vacation time, and the nuclear family is lost its luster because no one can afford to have children. There's many, many reasons. We can sit here and debate it all day about why people are sad. But again, in the now, how do you not cure, but how do you take care of your symptoms and try to live a better life? Dr. Amen says, get a brain scan and blow $5,000 at my clinic, and we're gonna diagnose you with nothing and give you omega-3 pills from my supplement brand. That's his solution. If you want to believe that's going to help you, just skip to the end and do that. Yeah, anyways, he doesn't have enough of him to then for him to go and say, oh, all other psychiatry is bad. He doesn't have enough. I don't think he's trying hard enough. If he really believes that, he's not trying hard enough to help people beyond his own pocketbook. I don't know. I'm blabbering.
And I think if we imaged that people would care about their brain a lot more, they would just eat better, think better, and do a better job of taking care of themselves. So I think we're in, I call it a whole 4 crisis. We haven't talked about this. Don't hate me. God, it's so frustrating. I'm working with the White House on a national brain health revolution.
Jesus fucking Christ. We're fucked. Excusez-moi. Excusez-moi. Oh, God. Oh, God. They're going to have brain scans in the airports. We're screwed. I'm sure my taxpayer money is now going to fund this guy's, Tahoe mansion, because now he's working with the White House. Okay, I should have predicted this on the bingo card.
Initiative.
Oh, God.
Specifically with the White House Faith Office, because they believe that brain and mental health are sacred human rights. And
what the what? The Faith Office? Are we doomed? Yes, the answer is yes. We've lost the plot completely. Dr. Amen is working with the White House Faith Office to do what? The brain is a sacred tool? Everyone gets an omega fish oil. Medicine's canceled. Oh my Lord.
I have people that just love me and support my work there. And as I explain it, we're in this whole 4 crisis. We're in a physical health crisis. I think you and I would agree with that.
Big time.
With
Chronic health conditions,
75%
all-time high
of people overweight or obese, 50% diabetic or pre-diabetic. 90% of our healthcare dollars are spent on chronic preventable illnesses. We have these epidemics of anxiety, depression,
pull-up bars. That's the solution.
Autism, ADHD, addiction before the pandemic, and then everything got worse. Loneliness, 58%. So biological, psychological, social, spiritual, where 58% of young people report a lack of meaning and purpose. But I believe the answer to these epidemics is not to see them as separate disorders, but as different expressions of the same unhealthy lifestyle that have exactly the same cure, which is getting your brain, mind, relationships, and spirit healthy all at the same time.
Yeah, you're looking at it more holistically.
Right. I did a program with Pastor Rick Warren called the Daniel Plan. It actually came out of a prayer. I went to my church. I just finished writing Change Your Brain, Change Your Body. It's 2010. Went to my church on a Sunday morning. I was so happy and walked by hundreds of donuts for sale for charity, and it just pissed me off.
Shut up.
Just like, I'm going to church to get my soul fed, these people are trying to kill me. And I prayed God would use me to change the culture of food at church. And 2 weeks later, Rick Warren, who is our generation's best-selling author, he wrote The Purpose-Driven Life, sold 50 million copies. He called me up. He said, I'm fat. My church is fat. Will you help me?
That's a good soundbite. My church is fat. Can you help me? Why don't you seek God? How about that? Ask him for guidance. Why are you asking a grifter brain scammer?
We created this program called the Daniel Plan that ended up being done in thousands of churches around the world. And
I guess it didn't work, though, because we still have major problems. That's only gotten worse since then. So good job, Daniel.
like, well, how do you get people healthy? You get them healthy where they live, whether in their community, in their churches, in their businesses.
Okay, so why didn't it work? Why didn't it have long-term effects? If you got this program and you're the genius in churches, thousands of across the U.S., why are we in the problems that we're in? Or how are you going to now fix it through the White House? You couldn't even do it in 2010. It's gotten worse. Daniel?
In their schools. And that's part of this sort of national brain health revolution.
Yeah, these this mental health crisis that we're facing, we have, as you said, teenage girls experiencing high level of sadness. The amount of SSRI and antidepressant prescriptions are going up and up.
Honestly, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit if SSRIs are going up? Good. People are seeking help for themselves? Good. Good. It's helped me. Why do we care if it's up? That's a solution to a problem.
You think this is partially due, or maybe majority due, to the fact that psychiatrists are rigging their brains?
I think that as a specialty, we have gone to be the prescriber rather than the healer. That antidepressants don't cure anything. They suppress symptoms. I think...
But your fucking supplements don't either. Hyperbaric chamber doesn't either. And what is easier and cheaper to get for most people is, even though it's expensive and too expensive, it's still cheaper to get a Zoloft prescription in your community where you live than it is to get your brain scanned at your fucking scam ass office and then spend $10,000 on hyperbaric chamber appointments that have no efficacy that's proven. So, fuck. Sorry, I cursed a lot.
Do they say that it
obviously
cures
it's
it?
not psychiatry's fault.
But I've never heard a psychiatrist say that antidepressants cure depression.
Yeah.
You don't hear that.
Yeah.
That it cures anything.
Right.
Right. I heard once John Paul DeJoria
And your shit don't cure it either.
speak. He founded Paul Mitchell, the famous shampoo company. He said, you never want to be in the order business. You always want to be in the reorder business. And, you know, once you start these medications, people don't stop them.
Well, the goal is not to use them indefinitely.
It says the median duration of antidepressant use in the United States is approximately 5 years. Fact check.
I think the correct indication is to create a bridge to get people over their
And
life.
how many
event.
of your patients, once you start them, stop them?
Almost all. I have a rule that if we're starting an antidepressant, we're creating a date that both me and the patient are comfortable with, where we're doing reevaluations, whether or not they feel that they're in a safe place to come off, given their circumstances. Because being in a community health center, I'm working with people who are disadvantaged, who are taking care of multiple children on their own, family members.
Dr. Amon's like, couldn't be me. Those are gross people.
In prison. And as a result, sometimes they need the antidepressant. They don't have the capacity to get scans, to get a hyperbaric chamber. It's not feasible.
Thank you.
There's the perfect model, and then there's the realistic model by which a lot of family medicine doctors have to practice by. And
we're talking about two different things. Yes, I think in this situation, but most people who start stay on them.
That's not
Most
true.
people who start don't have Dr. Mike that go, we're going to start this.
Again, it says the median duration of antidepressant is 5 years. And to be fair, I've started and stopped, and I'm on Zoloft, so it's more anti-anxiety than antidepressant, but it has antidepressant traits. I've been on it since this last time, 2 years? About 2 years, 2.5 years. I intend to stay on it. So, and I just switched psychiatrists, to be fair. So I guess I should talk to her about it and say, like, when should I get off? Should I get off? But I've stopped and started many, many times. I wish I could have just stayed on it, honestly. But I don't know what the effects are, so I need to find that out. So this is actually a good reminder to ask that question.
And then we're going to reevaluate it and work on getting you off of it. That's not been my experience.
I agree with you. I think there's a lot of reasons to that from what I've seen in the medical community. A big part of it is the consumerization of it. You know, we blame pharma for marketing these medications when I have seen patients say that I'm not getting rid of this. This helps me and I need this and I can't function without it. And if you're not prescribing it to me, you're evil. And perhaps they are right in some instances. So I don't want to discredit what they're experiencing. But in some instances where I feel that we should be having that discussion, some patients aren't open to that.
Well, and ultimately,
what are the negative effects? I kind of just want to know, what are the negative effects of staying on that for 10 years? What will happen to my brain? Not Dr. Amen. I don't want him to fucking answer, but Dr. Mike, if I don't get off and I stay on them for 10 years straight, what will happen? Soapy Lulu. What a great name. Soapy Lulu. That sounds like my dream song.
Her charisma is straight up off the charts.
Soapy Lulu. Jesus fucking Christ, we are doomed. But in the meantime, here's a little something for treats and snacks for you and Tara. Oh, thank you so much. And it's Canadian. I'm going to get a Mars bar. I'm going to get a Caramello. I'm going to get a Smarties.
We have a lot of really great friends from Canada.
Thank you.
One of the things that fascinates me about you is that you're from Canada.
Show up at his house. I'm sorry you're upset.
Thank you, Soapy Lulu. Carry on.
I think my job is informed consent, like we talked about before. But head-to-head against antidepressants, exercise is equally effective. Head-to-head against...
Shut up. No, I exercise not every day, but most of the time. There's some exercise in my life. It is no match for antidepressants at all. And it says, fact check, exercise can match antidepressants in some studies of non-severe depression, but evidence isn't strong enough to say it's equally effective for all patients or all severities. Yeah, I agree. That's crazy. It's like part of a holistic lifestyle, but it does not go, well, if you just worked out, you wouldn't have to take your medicine. It's like, no, not in my case.
There's a lot of caveats that need to be made there.
Head-to-head.
But it's
learning how not to believe every stupid thing you think is equally effective.
Sure.
And omega-3 fatty acids and saffron. And so I'm thinking,
you know, I think more money would cure a lot of things that you may seek out antidepressants for: stress, money, fear of losing your home. Those things that keep us up at night will then lead to mental health disorders. So I think he should give us some of his wealth. If he wants cures, that would probably help a lot.
Let me at least go because a lot of patients who come to see me, they don't want to take medicine. They're like, anything.
Which is why I think our worlds are so different. You're having this pre-selected, highly motivated, treatment preferred specific group come to you.
Yes.
Versus I essentially function in the wild and you're working in a zoo, for lack of a better example, with domesticated animals.
I was an army psychiatrist for 7 years.
For sure.
And
but I mean in your
loved
clinic.
It.
And here, those patients aren't super excited about a specific approach.
Yeah, no, the people who come see me are excited about it.
Which is a huge advantage.
But then
do you see that that's a huge advantage?
But then a lot of them...
He's meeting with, again, Kim Kardashian, millionaire, billionaire. Rachel Hollis, millionaire. Mel Robbins, millionaire. Jay Shetty, millionaire. I'm sure he's got other patients who aren't millionaires, but those are the types of people he prefers to highlight and talk about and go, this is a great thing. It's like, yeah, because they have money. That's half the battle. To be able to get into the door is half the battle.
grandma's paying for them to come see us, and they're not super excited. And we have to get them excited, and the imaging really helps that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the imaging, because Kim Kardashian recently got some imaging done, and you found some results on her. Tell me about that.
She had sleepy frontal lobes. And
what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
So SPECT is a study of relative blood flow. It looks at activity. Actually, 49% of the tracer is taken up in the mitochondria in the brain. And she had less activity in the front third of her brain, which means it's going to go with things like forethought and judgment and impulse control and focus. And she wanted to be better. She's in law school and getting ready to take her boards. And
I thought she was not in law school.
Or the bar, getting ready to take the bar, and wanted to function better. And I had previously seen Kendall, who had post-COVID anxiety, and Chloe, who had a traumatic brain injury. She was in a bad car accident. And they got benefit from my...
And they all got prescribed the same thing, which is his book, his podcast, and saffron pills. Wow, who would have thunk?
My work, so I saw Kim, and it just blew up because the little clip they played was her and I talking, showing her brain with lower activity in the front part, which is not good for her.
And once you find that there's this low activity, what is your recommendation in those scenarios?
Is fix it.
Is fix it. Okay, thank you, doctor. Fix it. Okay. And how do I do that? Oh, your supplements. Got it.
Prove it. And so
what?
you can do it with medicine. You can do it with supplements. You could put them in a hyperbaric chamber and see if that does it. There's...
so you're guessing. You're flying blind, it sounds like. It sounds like you're flying blind there, doc. Oh, I didn't think about it like that.
Neurofeedback that you can do. There are also some stimulating treatments, things like TMS. So my job is to give her the options. I think we went with stimulating supplements and see.
Shocking. Stimulating supplements? What's that?
See how that works. And the cool thing is you can look at it again and go, well, is that working?
If you were to interview Kim and hear all these struggles that she's having taking the bar, issues with impulse control, would you have been able to come to that same diagnosis without the imaging?
Yes.
Well, I would have been able to guess at it, but I wouldn't be able to know.
Well, there's a difference between guessing and asking validated questionnaires.
So I had this discussion actually with the head of the National Institute of Drug Abuse. And she goes, but the brain has language. And it's like, no, you can't see low blood flow from just talking to somebody. But
you're not going to increase your blood flow by giving them an omega-3 either.
Well, I could see low blood flow
insane
on patients.
Position in my mind. It's like, well, how would you really know if you didn't look? And it's like, oh, well, I can tell because you had these symptoms. It's like, no, you can't. It's like, that's a leap in logic that just isn't correct. Because that's what most psychiatrists.
You could say that with anything. You can go, okay, well, I think this person has strep throat. It goes, well, we got to cut their throat open to make sure and see. It's like, yeah, that's one way to do it, but you can also kind of come to the conclusion or do a swab and test for it. It's way less invasive. You could do a brain surgery and check what's going on, but is that worth it? No.
Believe now. Oh, you have 6 of these 9 symptoms. You're depressed.
Correct number.
That means your limbic brain is too active. I'm going to give you something to calm it down. Well, SSRIs wouldn't have black box warnings if it worked like that all the time. And it's just not my experience.
And the only reason that a supplement doesn't have a warning on it is because it's not regulated and it's not forced to have a warning on there because there is no regulation at all. So is that better? Oh, well, there's warnings on this. That must be dangerous, but there's no warnings on this. It's like, yeah, because they're there's no one forcing someone to put a warning label on it.
Even a little bit, is I can get 100 people that are depressed, and we're going to find 7 or 8 different patterns. In fact, I wrote a book on ADD, healing ADD, See and Heal the 7 Types. I'm like, it's not one thing. Why is Ritalin controversial when it can take the right kids from C's, D's, and F's to A's and B's, but make other kids suicidal, right? I mean, why is Ritalin controversial?
That's every medicine out there. You could take penicillin, one person's cured, one person dies. That's everything. That's why you test and you know yourself and you figure these things out earlier in life. Anyways.
Because it works dramatically well for some kids and it disrupts other kids or adults.
You said that based on your questionnaire, you would still have questions that needed to be answered that you could get answered by this imaging protocol. Does your treatment then change?
79% of the time. I published a study on this where we took 107 cases, gave them to board certified psychiatrists, took out the imaging, and we got, here's the history, here's the mental status exam, here are the answers to the questionnaires. What's the diagnosis and what would you do? And then we added imaging and we go, in what percentage would it change? 8 times out of 10.
From their protocol, it changed their guidance?
Changed their guidance.
Why is the imaging so controversial? Like even when you came in, you said that people hate you now. Is it because of the imaging?
Well, some people love me, but
you have a lot of people who love you.
I have a lot of people who love me. And
It's not reputable people who have medical backgrounds.
But if I'm right, and I think I am, that means 40,000 psychiatrists and actually hundreds of thousands, family medicine doctors, nurse practitioners, OBGYN doctors, internists, right? Everybody and their mother prescribes psychiatric drugs. 85% of psychiatric drugs are prescribed by non-psychiatric physicians, are flying blind. And when you say that, they don't say thank you to that. It's like, we need a new paradigm, and we need a paradigm based on imaging, because what imaging will do is completely reshape how we diagnose and treat people.
It's not true.
Why don't, if we're flying blind, why don't we include this imaging? Why doesn't every family medicine doctor, why does the American Psychiatric Association, American Academy of Neurology, why are they against this imaging?
The fact check says, APA resource documents conclude that no neuroimaging biomarker, including SPECT, is currently clinically useful for diagnosing primary psychiatric disorders or guiding routine treatment selection.
Well, not everybody's against imaging. That's
well, the
really
examples
important.
that I gave.
Because,
Society for Nuclear Medicine.
Do you ever read Thomas Kuhn's book, The Structure of Scientific Revolution? It's such a good book. It was written in 1962. Because when I first started imaging, there was all-day seminars at the American Psychiatric Association on brain SPECT imaging in child and adolescent psychiatry. All-day seminars. And I went, I loved it. 1993, I taught in it. And then they go, oh, you shouldn't use this. We're like, well, why? Remember I told you my dad, bullshit, no. I'm like, bullshit, no. Why? I'm a better doctor
it's a natural
because I
question
use
then.
this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fit the paradigm. It does not fit.
What does that mean?
The DSM paradigm is we make diagnoses based on symptom clusters with no biological data. This is the paradigm.
But if it works, why wouldn't they want it?
Exactly.
Okay, so Kuhn talks about...
If it works, why wouldn't they want it? Because it doesn't work. It doesn't prove anything. It's just an extra thing that's flashy and makes people think they're getting better service. It's like if you go to the dentist and they give you a toothbrush and it's like fancy, you go, well, this is a nice, better experience at the dentist's office. But it doesn't change the fact if you got a toothbrush a lower level, it still does the job. Does that make sense? That's how I feel about it.
About 6 stages of scientific revolution. Normal science, So you're just going along doing what everybody else does. Stage 2, somebody notices there is a problem. I prescribe Prozac. Some people get better. Some people want to kill themselves. Okay, we have a problem.
I wish he would just be honest, because it's obvious in his undertones he doesn't believe in medicine. He doesn't believe in traditional medicine. He thinks it's a Band-Aid. It's not really helping you. It's a temporary solution. What you should do is not be fat. You should not think stupid thoughts. You should be, hanging out with your friends and going for walks, and that'll be enough for you, because he lives in a rich man. He always has been rich his whole life. Southern California utopia that is not applicable to 99% of people in the world. And he's in his bubble and he's like, I have the solution, just have a stable job and live in a mansion and all your problems will be gone. It's like, okay. You're a psychiatrist. You should be dealing with the most vulnerable of all of us, and yet you act like it's just such a simple solution.
3, the status quo sees there is a problem, but they make small incremental changes to protect itself and the money. And
it's like asking someone, what's the cure to homelessness? And going, well, why don't you just go to college and get a career and build your own home on Malibu Beach? It's like, well, not everyone can do that. It's like, well, yeah, but that's what we should all do. That's the better solution than, anything else. It's like, you're an idiot. Go away. You're not even part of this conversation.
And so how many versions of the DSM are there? Well, there's 6 of it. Even though it's DSM-5, there was 3 and 3R. But it's the same as DSM-3. It's really not different at all. Stage 4, somebody comes up with a new paradigm. Detailed histories, imaging, natural ways to heal the brain in an integrative or functional medicine approach. We haven't talked about that yet. Stage 5 is the most consistent of all the stages, the rejection. It's like, no, you're crazy. This is how we do it. The brain has language. You don't need imaging.
In science, we're trying to always come up with the validated solution to our problems. And when I read people who are smarter than me who understand this field, like the Society of Nuclear...
Again, think about GLP-1s. Those took a long time to get to the market to be used for weight loss, but now they are all over the place. People are using them like crazy. It's everywhere. Everyone wants one. It's mainstream. That was not around 10, 20 years ago, but yet the entire industry has now pivoted to this thing. If it was working the way he claims, that would have happened and every psychiatrist would have had this machine in their office. But it's not, it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything different than what he already would be doing without the scans, which is giving people supplements and putting them on his plan that he thinks is best, which is a natural healing of the brain.
Their medicine. I don't fully understand what they're talking about. If I can't argue the nuances with them, I can't argue the nuances with you. But their statement as an organization that is set out to seek the best for their patients.
Does the Society of Nuclear Medicine list only neurological indications for SPECT, like dementia, seizures, and stroke, but no psychiatric uses at all? Yeah, that's what I've understood, that you can tell if someone's got dementia from a SPECT scan, and that could be helpful, but beyond that, it's really not helpful at all.
Perhaps imperfectly at times, say that this imaging is not validated enough to be used. And it's not that they're against imaging. They're just saying that the imaging is not validated or can be used repetitively across a diverse group of patients.
Yes.
So it's not that they're anti-looking at the brain. They're anti this specific method because they feel that it doesn't have enough evidence.
The Canadian Association of Nuclear Medicine wrote procedure guidelines on SPECT.
Okay, this says, fact check. Canadian Association of Nuclear Medicine gives nuclear medicine procedure guidelines, not psychiatric practice guidelines. Okay. Got it.
As if I wrote them. That SPECT is indicated for head trauma, for seizures, for dementia, for stroke, for...
But that's different than depression. Okay, and also says, Canadian Psychiatric Association does not generally recommend SPECT as a routine test for psychiatric diagnosis or treatment planning. And in its major guidelines, it actually pulls back on even basic brain imaging, limiting it to clear neurological red flags. So I guess he's lying straight out of his teeth in this one?
for toxic exposure for neuropsychiatric indications. So it really depends who you read, right?
Well, I'm reading the largest agencies that represent neurologists, psychiatrists. It's like me saying something fully against the American Academy of Family Physicians without evidence to say why I'm disagreeing with them.
Well, I have 90 studies that I have published, and I have the world's largest database. And I actually don't know what the point of us arguing about it is. I have more experience in this than anybody probably in the history of the world. And if you don't look...
Yeah, so trust the guy who has his own data, okay, and his own supplement company that's he's profiting from making these claims and saying that he's got all the answers. But it's not worth arguing about. Okay. But he thinks the entire psychiatric paradigm should change, but he's not interested in actually doing that. He just wants to profit himself. Okay. He doesn't even want to talk about it now.
You don't know. And some people go, oh, no, we should just continue to do what we're doing, which is a disaster in our society. And I'm like, no, I don't believe that. We need to do better. And if you don't look, you don't know.
Logically, what you're saying makes sense. And I think evolution-wise, scientifically, all these organizations will agree with you that we need to move in that space. But do we have the randomized controlled data to be able to back these things up?
No.
Well, give me an example and I'll tell you what the research is.
Let me ask you a specific question. Is there randomized controlled data on SPECT scans and their efficacy in a specific mental health condition?
No.
Yes.
Which one?
Well, which one do you want to talk about?
Anyone.
I mean, if you go on PubMed.
Well, can you name one right now?
.gov today.
You're the leading expert, so I'm a family medicine doctor. I don't know.
Distinguishing, one of the most important things to do is distinguishing post-traumatic stress disorder from traumatic brain injury. Mm-hmm. And because they often present with similar symptoms, but the treatments are actually opposed to each other. PTSD, generally, you want to calm the brain down. Traumatic brain injury, you have to repair and stimulate it. I published 2 studies on 21,000 people showing...
But is this randomized and done correctly in mainstream science so that your psychiatry colleagues can take the information and use it and trust that it's accurate? No, I think it's designed to support what he already believes.
We can separate these groups with high levels of accuracy. In 2016, Discover Magazine listed our research as one of the top 100 stories in science.
Okay.
We could also talk about Alzheimer's disease.
But that's not a randomized controlled study.
I'm sorry?
That's not a randomized controlled study.
He's like, what's that? I don't ever heard of that before. If I was a body expert, facial expert, I would be like, he's angry right now. He's very angry at this moment.
Liar! This is just stupid.
Call the police. Call the psych ward.
That's what his face says.
We're talking imaging.
Yeah.
This is not a pharmaceutical intervention where we're going to do
Well, the goal of doing the imaging is to create more customizable treatments, as you said. And if you have customizable treatments, your outcomes should be better. That's the randomized controlled study.
Mm-hmm.
And our outcomes are better. We published a study
But that's
on
not the question I'm
outcomes.
asking.
Thank you.
Randomized controlled data is really important.
If you truly think the entire industry that you represent is fucked, is what he said, essentially, that it's RAPIing the brain, okay, that's a very bold statement to make, then you would want to publish, and you'd want to, he's a multimillionaire. Go in, if you really believe this the way he says he does, that he believes all psychiatrists that don't do what he does are flawed and that those patients are at a disservice by going to them, then he should, as the martyr that he seems to want to be paying for these randomized trials so that there is no argument that the psychiatric society can say this is bullshit. But he knows it's bullshit, and he knows he's got an aim to trick people who are naive into buying his crap.
Getting emotional right now.
Let's see. What do you got to say? Scout Hunter Spaceman, welcome to the membership. You know what I have to say to you?
take my load.
This is how I feel about you.
I had a thriving wild stallion of Eros.
And also?
Back to the swallowing.
Thank you. Okay.
Did you say to develop a causal relationship?
He's pissed.
I'm sorry. Say this again.
Randomized controlled trials are very
good for
important to creation causal interventions. To say that this isn't just a correlation, this is a causative pathway. You need the randomized controlled data to remove outliers, to create a generalized group, to have them double blinded, to not know which one's getting intervention, which one's not.
He's like, yeah, I'm getting screwed on this. It's also, yeah.
Because it's great that you're helping people. And I am so for that you're helping people. And I want
Why does he
more.
look like he's about to cry? You're a grown man who's making millions of dollars off the backs of people who are trusting you, and you're about to cry on one person asks you a legitimate question, you can't handle it? Come on, dude.
Because it's great that you're helping people. And I am so for that you're helping people. And I want more of that. Now I'm trying to think as a family medicine doctor, how can we generalize what you're doing so that I can do it too?
You can't.
But in order for me to do it, I need to know it works from a randomized controlled study.
He literally is going to cry.
Why don't we have that?
So design it for me, because you're going to randomize. Sure. You got imaging, you didn't. So automatically it's not blinded.
Well, you can get sham imaging.
Okay.
Why is he so confused? Take an omega-3 and come back to this conversation. You're too confused for this. As the leading expert and the person with the most experience in the entire history of humankind, you should not be confused by these very basic questions.
You've been doing this since 1991, so I'm trying to look at you as the expert. Like, do you not feel that it's an issue that there is no randomized control data? Like, you're asking me to design the trial right now.
We have data that goes...
We have data that I benefit from by selling my supplements and that I can control and that I can manipulate to fit what I already believe.
You get better and you don't. So... What's the difference?
Who doesn't get better?
Depression of people who got better and those who didn't.
Where are you sourcing those patients from?
Well, from our clinics.
So all your patients are getting the spec. You're not separating them to groups of here we're treating patients who didn't get spec.
Well, no, not everybody gets scanned at our clinics.
But for the research, you're pointing out like you have this study that shows 84% of your patients improved. But we're not comparing them against a group of people who didn't get spec.
Exactly.
No, but nobody is that I know of has outcomes like that.
Huh?
But do you think that's enough for me to start doing spec in my clinic?
Hell no.
I think if you started doing SPECT in your clinic, it would revolutionize your practice.
And you're saying that as someone who's passionate about it, or that there's proof of that?
No, I'm saying it as someone who has taught people around the world to do imaging.
This guy is bad. He only has his script that he's done 1,000,000 times to people with Alzheimer's or developing that slowly that he's giving these speeches to, or people who support him blindly. And he has not thought about this. His expressions of disdain and distaste for these very, very fair questions is telling me everything I need to know.
And they become passionate about it.
Yeah, so we talked about the patient selection of it all earlier, how if you have patients who are highly motivated, it can bias your outcomes. Like we do journal club in my family medicine residency. And part of it is there a bias from the patients? Is there a selection bias of who you're selecting? And when you have your clinic, people who love you, is there a chance that you could be introducing bias by only looking at the people who love you, support you, and want your treatment?
Yes.
Well, I mean, we do have a more motivated group, for sure.
So then what he's saying is true, and that you don't have any proof.
We have a group. Yeah, I think it's a more motivated group for sure.
And what outcome do you think that has on the outcomes that you study?
A lot.
So we actually did this study this week on
This
compliance because we do a formal outcome study on everybody we see.
I don't think he understands what study means. He just says like whatever he wants is a study. He looked at a piece of paperwork and said, I did a study. But Dr. Mike is saying, well, no, the way that studies are to be held as medical truth, it has to go through these trials. He's like, well, no, I looked and I decided. That's a study. I studied. I Googled it.
I mean, I don't know if you know many clinics that do that, but
who cares?
The people who are very compliant get better way faster in much bigger numbers. So
now it's going back to, well, forget all the other claims I just made. Actually, the scans is placebo effect to get buy-in from the patients. Therefore, if you scanned brains, even though it just tells you nothing, tells you absolutely nothing, the fact that they're getting a piece of paper with their brain on it will make them more compliant, will make them listen to you and make them take their medicine or, fix their thoughts. And that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, well, that's very different than what you said the last hour about having all the studies that have proven that your method works.
Ask everybody about their compliance is just huge. I think you would agree with me.
Yeah, for sure. And it's great that you're doing the reassessment because I feel like that's missed a lot of the time.
Well, very few clinics actually focus on outcomes. And for us, it's research, but it's also quality control.
Sure.
And if you're not compliant at all, your outcomes are not very good.
That's for sure. But also mental health patients or patients who have issues with their mental health, they tend to have lower compliance, not because they're bad people or saying something negative about them. They're going through something.
Mm-hmm. No, it's because their brains aren't healthy. So, I mean, yes, they're going through something, but in large
the human
part,
experience of their
because
depression.
their brains are not healthy. I mean, we might agree, maybe not, that if you're depressed, something's going on in the organ of how you feel, which is your brain.
Sure. And like you're such a
I
proponent.
think he also believes that emotional issues aren't real. That your problems should be bootstrapped and disciplined by spending money on supplements, sleeping, working out religiously, going to church, like doing these things in a method. But again, he is coming from a privileged background, has never had to raise kids on their own and be a single mother in a low income world. It's like, that's the difference. Like not every person can go, you know what? I'm going to change my life and I'm going to start eating salmon every night and get my omega-3s up. That's just not a realistic worldview. And do those people not deserve psychiatric help?
Of CBT, we say depression can be a chemical imbalance. Well, CBT actually alters the chemicals in your brains, right?
Yes. That psychological treatments like EMDR or CBT impact.
DBT, whatever alphabet soup we want to put, they all help with changing the chemical composition.
Right. But you're still advocating, at least what I'm hearing, is you're still advocating for not looking before you go about changing.
Yes.
Because I don't want this to feel like a guy.
It's unnecessary because there is no proof. If he could provide proof, I think he would go, okay, great. I would like to add this to my practice or advocate for it. But he has provided no proof and has no intention to give any proof because I think deep down he knows that he doesn't have it.
Before you go about changing.
Because I don't want this to feel like a gotcha, because what I'm trying to do is...
It doesn't feel like a gotcha. It feels like a good conversation.
I really want to learn from what you're doing because I want to be a better doctor, genuinely. Like my goal, why I still practice medicine is because I want to deliver the best care for my patients. And if what you're doing is great, we need to get that message out there to the world as fast as possible because otherwise people are suffering. So in order to make the general...
He doesn't even believe it. He doesn't even believe what he's giving. He's giving him a genuine argument. I think he can tell, because he's not dumb, that he doesn't believe this. You know what he's saying? He's saying it facetiously, I believe, but in a genuine tone. But Dr. Amen doesn't even believe the garbage because he knows it's fake.
That everyone should get a SPECT scan before...
But that's not what I said. But
Yes, you did.
if I
correct me
get
there.
you to be a better doctor, just start thinking of mental health as brain health. Is this person actively working for their brain's health? You can do that
Without
in
a
your
spec
practice.
scan.
And
Without a spec scan. So why then are you saying every other psychiatrist is flying blind in their practice without spec scans?
brain's health. You can do that in your practice. And
Without SPECT
there's
scans.
going to be a day when SPECT or fMRI or quantitative EEG or PET is going to be covered by insurance, and you're going to be able to use it. But what you can do today is you can go, if we improve the health of your brain, your anxiety is going to be less. And it starts with one question. I teach all of my patients, whatever you're going to do today, is it good for your brain or bad for it? Is it good for your brain or bad for it?
You think that's going to stop people from ask a lung doctor. I don't know what they're called. A breathing expert. If you can tell someone, do you think smoking this cigarette's going to help your lungs or hurt your lungs? If you think that's going to convince a patient to stop smoking, like, again, it's wonderful, of course. Yes, the best patient is a compliant patient who has $1 million and will do everything I say, of course. But that's not reality. And it's like, should the people who are not in reality or are in reality not get medical help? And he's kind of saying, yeah, they shouldn't get help. Only rich people who are motivated should get help. Amy, thank you so much, Amy. Amy says, your cat just texted me, needs a product collar in addition to a mega mansion cat tree bowl of premium water and a nice fish for dinner. Don't know for Kitty. Kitty, did you hear that? You want to see Taro's favorite toy? This is Taro's favorite toy. It's a hot sauce. It's a hot sauce, and it says hot sauce on it, and she loves it, and she plays with it. You want to play with it now? And I ordered her a cat toy that has like a motor on it, and it's like a ball that jumps around. So I'll let you know how that goes. But thank you so much, Amy. Product color on its way. What do you think? She said, Amy. And for you, I say this.
Are you okay?
The answer is yes.
You're gonna get spanked by the universe.
Also, this is how I feel about you, Amy.
You're crack.
Thank you. Tara says thank you as well. She says, meow.
And that will begin to spark a revolution in their life. Now, if you have somebody that's not getting better, you should advocate for them to be imaged, because to continue to fly blind is not anybody's interest.
So for my patients who have such bad major depressive disorder that they can't groom themselves, they have trouble taking a shower, the solution is asking them if what they're doing is good or bad for their brain. You think that's enough motivation to help this individual?
No, it's all of it. See, now I feel like you're twisting my
Well, I'm trying to
words to
understand.
create conflict.
Please tell me if how do
it's
I
like
understand
if somebody,
because you're saying the one
if
question.
somebody is that bad, you should be advocating to look at their brain, because you don't know if they're living in a mold-filled home that
Again, the brain scan's not going to see and tell you there's mold in here. It doesn't. It shows literal rainbow colors that all look the same. I looked at like Kim Kardashian's brain, Rachel Hollis's brain, all the people they've done brains. They look exactly the same. Like literally exactly the same. And the solution is think about all your thoughts, take my supplement is the cure for everything anyway. So it's like, okay, again, here's a fact check. Evidence for using SPECT to diagnose mold toxicity is weak and not validated. Small studies report non-specific abnormalities, but they don't prove causation or establish a diagnostic pattern. So now he's talking about mold. I'm sure he's going to bring up Lyme disease again, because it's these things that everyone sort of knows is a thing, but can't really prove. And it's perfect for those people who have chronic conditions that are being misled and their money taken away from them because they have a chronic illness they can't figure out.
is damaging their brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Why don't we
we're-
check everyone's brains?
Everybody should be asking themselves that question. Is what I'm doing today good for my brain or bad for it? But do you spend any time as a family doctor asking
about
that
mold?
question? No. Is this good for your brain or bad for it? Going through their habits or just teaching them to love.
I'll be
and
honest, I
care
don't.
for.
I don't, and I'll tell
time.
you why I don't.
He's got a million patients of different severities. You ever seen The Pit? Can you imagine them going, each patient, okay, remember, it's like kindergarten, like telling a person who's like in grave pain and going, now, do you do everything right for your brain today? Okay, well, you come back now. That's going to be $500 for that visit, and you should just learn how not to think bad thoughts, okay? Good luck.
We don't have enough time with our patients, so
Yes.
that's a little bit of a cop-out. But at the same time...
Yeah, because that's a really easy question. That's like,
Well-
in the 7-minute visit, you can take 30 seconds to ask them that question.
You'd be surprised
But
as
you don't
a
have
family
it in
medicine.
your head yet because we were never taught that mental
Well, I was going to
health
tell you
is
why
brain
I
health.
do ask that question without asking the question, is my second point. I ask questions that don't directly ask about the brain, but ultimately point to me behaviors that they have that put their brain at risk. So I ask about smoking. I ask about alcohol. I ask about diet. I asked about intimate partner violence. I ask a PHQ-2 screening question. So while I may not be saying the question as specifically as you are, I am figuring out the mental health state of the brain. So,
but not the brain health state of the brain. See, that is the distinction.
It's not.
That if we get anything,
what is that distinction? Because I'm having trouble understanding that.
it's not mental health. It's brain health.
What can you
The distinction is one is loose, mental health. That's very loose.
He's unraveling here. He looks like a total dum-dum. I'm sorry. He's lost all credibility. He's a good speaker if he sticks to his 4 lines and repeats them and says it with inflection like he practiced in the mirror. But when he goes rogue, he sounds really unsure of what he's saying. This is not good for his image.
PHQ-9, GAD-7 stuff, or is your brain healthy? And if you want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it, you have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors. So I told you, so the big 3 ways I want to transform psychiatry: imaging, if you don't look, you really don't know; natural ways to heal the brain; and an integrative or functional medicine model. And that's why our model not only works to decrease depression, it helps to prevent Alzheimer's disease. And I think you prevent Alzheimer's disease by prevent or treating these 11 risk factors. And the acronym I talk about is Bright Minds. Like B is for blood flow. Low blood flow is the #1 brain imaging predictor of Alzheimer's disease. S is sleep. And then all sorts of things in between.
So you said that when a patient is that severely depressed, they should get a SPECT scan. Is that true for all patients?
That are that severely depressed?
That they have trouble showering, getting up out of bed?
Absolutely. Because how do you know why they're that way?
Well,
Getting a SPECT scan's not going to tell you why either. Dum-dum.
the issue that I believe...
No,
the people-
answer the question. How do you know
How do you
what
know?
is actually going on in that person's brain without looking?
By asking them questions, by doing
That's
validated
complete crap,
questioning.
Mike. It's complete crap that you know what's going on in that person's brain. You're guessing. Now, maybe it's...
So are you. So are you. You have a piece of paper with a little shape on it. That's all the information he has in addition. So it is a guess also.
an educated guess, but don't tell me you know, because you completely don't.
Well, here's
Ooh, got
my
him.
defense of why I feel like it's better than just a slightly educated guess. Because when you look at randomized controlled trials for people who get either therapy or antidepressants or sometimes both, we see the improvements. So while it looks on paper like a guess. We see the outcomes hold up, validated across.
I've been doing this
research.
for 45 years. You're guessing. And
But
maybe
why
you
are
can
you
point to
dismissing?
some studies that say, oh,
Are you saying there's no studies that show therapy, CBT has
you're
evidence-based
completely mixing lots of different concepts.
What
This patient, you don't know because you didn't look. Now, are there studies on big populations? And most of the severely depressed, like you're talking about, there's not one single thing that works for them. They need a combination of things.
I didn't say that they wouldn't. I just said
will
that there
work.
could be a combination.
But you don't know what's causing it.
And I think
And if you scan the brain, you still won't. It's a waste of time and energy and money.
imaging holds such a key here, which is why I'm trying to figure out how to get it to the masses on a level that is scalable. So I'm trying to figure out how we get there. How do we get SPECT?
You don't, because there are no studies. He has no interest in doing studies, and he just wants to profit. That's what happens.
Across the APA, the AAN? How do we get everyone
Well, I
on board?
think the Canadian model, I mean, it's covered by insurance in Canada. I think that is a really great model, that there's a lot of research that when you really understand it and put it together, that imaging plus clinical evaluation, we have better outcomes. And that's
But we
why
don't know
they
that.
wrote the paper. I didn't write it. I'm not an author on it.
But we don't have that.
Fact check. There are no studies comparing randomized groups between those who got SPECT scans versus those who didn't.
I just asked
No,
you. if there-
we do have imaging and head trauma, imaging and depression,
But I'm not
imaging
asking
and
for
ADD.
imaging.
You're
In order to universally recommend a treatment, you need
it's not a
randomized.
treatment, it's an assessment.
I know the assessment leading to the treatment, which changes ultimately the treatment because it's customizable. In order to verify this, we need to be able to test it with a randomized, double-blinded, controlled study. And in
But that won't work because I know it won't work. So I can't do that.
30 plus years of doing this, you're okay with not one study being done?
Yes.
So I've published a lot. Like I published on NFL players, and I published on here's the pattern for it. Here's the pattern that
Highly biased, highly beneficial for it to say that it works. There is no benefit for him to say, you know what, I was wrong. There is no benefit, so he will never do that. And that's the problem.
after treatment. I haven't done a study where, okay, everybody gets scanned, but we only use the scans in half the people and see. I think that's the study you're
Well, let me
thinking
ask it
about
to you in a different way that takes us out of the equation. If a pharmaceutical company came out and said, we have this medication, it works, we never tested it against any other placebo, no randomized controlled data, but everyone who takes it loves it, would you buy into that pharmaceutical?
No, but that's not what I'm saying, even though it is exactly what I'm saying.
Or would you say, I need to see the data?
You always have to see the data.
Well,
which
where is the data with
why
spec scans?
There's 15,000 abstracts on SPECT on PubMed.gov today.
But again, we're talking about the need for the randomized controlled data to be able to take bias out of the equation. You said
Yes.
you have a more motivated patient population. These are all issues that can make actually SPECT not helpful for people.
Yes.
And perhaps a spending of money that is not valuable given how constricted our health.
He looks like he's about to say, you bitch. And he's about to storm off. You're a slut. That's what it sounds like. Whores. That's what he's going to say and walk off.
care spending is already or needs to be.
So you're arguing we should just continue to fly blind?
No, I argue. But see, do you think I am advocating for flying blind? Can I tell you what I'm advocating for? Then you tell me.
Getting the studies that it requires to have this be widespread. That's what he's saying. But he knows, Dr. Heyman knows deep down that that will not work because it is all a pseudoscience, smoke and mirrors procedure that makes him, specifically him, money.
If you agree with my notion, I think we should test SPECT to see if we can improve and no longer fly blind. And if it's not SPECT, perhaps it's something else. You don't think that's reasonable of me to say that?
No.
No, I think more studies.
One
would
study?
Why is this a hard question? Again, you need more sleep and need more brain flow because the computing power is slowing down the harder these questions get.
I think that would only help.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree too. And I'm curious, why do you think they haven't been done?
I don't know. The first study that was presented in 1992 at the American Psychiatric Association is they took 100 bipolar teenagers. 50 of them were scanned on the day of admission.
Says, we could not find any peer-reviewed study or APA abstract supporting the claim that scanning 100 bipolar teens with SPECT cut hospital stays and saved $15,000 per patient. Okay, so he just made this up on the spot, it sounds like. And also 100 people, 100 teenagers is a very small study. You'd have to expand it past that. But okay, here's his big comeback.
50 of them were never scanned. They looked at the average length of stay. For the kids who were never scanned, it was 44 days. Now, this was, and you could actually keep people in psychiatric hospitals. For the kids who were scanned, it was 15 days. It was an average cost savings of $15,000 per hospital stay. Is that the kind of study you're thinking about?
No, but it's getting there. That's a great preliminary piece of research that I think we can build upon, because I think we would agree that there's a hierarchy of evidence.
Why does he not understand studies? If he's a leading expert, is he just ignorant? Is it just ignorance that's happening here, or nefariousness? I think it's nefarious. He's playing dumb to make it seem like he's being bullied by a pharma lover.
For recommendation for deciding between causation and correlation, you agree with that?
Yeah.
So to me, unless we have that randomization where we take two groups, ideally match them as best as we can, randomize them so they don't know what they're getting, blind them, test the outcomes based on the treatments being more customizable in the SPECT category. And then if we see this drastic improvement, everyone changes their mind. AAN, APA's recommending it. We're all getting it done.
Yeah, see, that would be great if that happened.
You don't want to make a push for that on this podcast?
I'm not sure this podcast is going to get us to where we need to go.
Why not?
That would surprise me.
But
why?
This is so valuable. I feel like SPECT can help so many people based on the way
I
you're
agree with
presenting
you.
it.
I think it can too.
But you don't. So if we present
In my own mind, and I don't want to test it.
randomized controlled data to the AAN, APA, we publish it in the Lancet together, let's say, we can change the practice in the United States. Isn't that something you would want?
No.
Absolutely.
So what's stopping us from doing it?
I'm all for it.
Okay. Well, at least you're for it. That's really exciting because
I'm confused. What did you got to come up with a better lie. You got to come up with a better lie because you just look like an idiot right now. I don't know. I'm sure people who will want to believe him will believe him and they'll never watch this interview, so it doesn't matter. But what are you thinking here? This does not make you look like an expert. It makes you look like you don't know what a study is and that you're out of your mind.
When we think about people who are critics of SPECT, I want to prove them wrong, right? Because I want to help people and I'm on your side and I want to figure out how to get this done correctly. But if we're trying to do scientific research, it shouldn't be done in a way where Secretary Kennedy said, we're going to prove that this causes this. Scientific research starts with asking a hypothetical.
He's like, Kennedy's my best friend. We work together at the White House. Don't talk about my best friend.
Asking a question, creating a hypothesis, disproving yourself, proving the null hypothesis, not just agreeing with yourself or seeking to agree with yourself. Do you agree with that?
No.
I was thinking
You want to set out to disprove yourself if you're doing research.
It's so ironic that his brain is not functioning at this moment. He can't come up with an answer.
Because ultimately, if you can't disprove yourself, that makes your information stronger. And look, there are some instances where correlation can be strong enough where you actually don't need a randomized controlled trial. Because with
how do you do a randomized controlled trial on you have Alzheimer's or you don't? I mean, they have autopsy confirmed data that Alzheimer's disease, which has been described in the literature for 35 years. So you need better data than that to say SPECT can help in the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease.
Well, not Alzheimer's specifically. That's like the one it can determine. But he's saying depression, anxiety, addiction, brain trauma, all these things for every person who goes to a psychiatrist. And I don't think you're going to a psychiatrist to get diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Are you? I don't think that. I think there's specialists that deal with that typically.
I need SPECT to differentiate itself from the standard of care as exists today for it to be found valuable and widespread recommendation.
Yes, fair enough.
Okay. And I would argue for...
Because SPECT is expensive. SPECT has radiation. It can fuel misdiagnosis. So I also don't want to overdo it with SPECT. So I'm trying to find the reasonable middle ground.
Yes. But I'm upset. You're mean to me.
Okay.
What a response. Give it up. Give it up, everybody. Just totally deflate and give up on your life's work. You are a medical professional, the leading expert in the entire history of the world, and you get confronted by one question that should be simple to answer, and you give up and go, okay, I don't know. Beats me. Man, deflated by nothing, literally.
Is that correct?
Let's go back. I need to relive this moment.
I also don't want to overdo it with SPECT, so I'm trying to find the reasonable middle ground.
Wow, what a totally unreasonable question there.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that correct me if please disagree with me.
Yeah. You're arguing for the status quo until someone can show you a randomized controlled trial for a specific diagnosis. Although I gave you the one with bipolar disorder.
That has no proof that it exists.
Yeah, I'm just thinking flying blind's not the answer.
Okay. Oh, he needs more omegas. Rob Gabor. Thank you so much. Rob says, thank goodness I'm not the only one who saw Marshall Heaven's Gate Applewhite in this guy. Yeah, he looks like, and I'll bring him up. Let's just show him for those who are unaware. It's the haircut and the weirdness and the insistence on being right with no proof. Twins, Basil, twins. Some may say we look like twins. Hold on. Let me add it to the chat. Let me add it to the chat. Who wore it better? He is so angry.
You look like a Lord of the Rings elf.
We're not a cult.
But also,
This is so good. Priceless, juicy nuggets.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. There you go.
I agree. I don't think we disagree.
And
on
I didn't. You didn't bring this up, and probably you don't know. The American Psychiatric Association last year named me a thought leader, and
You probably don't know this, but one time someone liked my post. A thought leader. I love that word.
I agree. I don't think we disagree.
And I
on that.
didn't. You didn't bring this up, and probably you don't know. The American Psychiatric Association last year named me a thought leader, and
But I'm not attacking you
whole-
here. This isn't. I'm not anti your work. I'm trying to figure out how to get your work to more people. We're on the same team, helping patients.
Yeah, and hopefully bringing psychiatry into the
I agree.
21st century rather than making diagnoses just based on symptom
I
clusters.
agree.
And I think
I'm just trying to do it without doing it prematurely, because with any medical intervention, there could be
I don't
drawbacks.
think we did it prematurely. I think,
But you don't have one randomized controlled trial.
well, we're not thinking about it in exactly the same way.
How are you thinking
1992, if I get a scan.
In 1992, that there is no written proof of this. 50 people, I think, were benefited by this. What is your question? What is your hesitancy here? Also, Big Pharma is out to get us.
On the day of admission, it cuts hospital days 67%. That's pretty exciting. And what I saw
Agreed,
as a clinician is it changed what I did 8 times out of 10. Not only did it increase compliance and decrease stigma, it made me more effective because I had a roadmap.
I think that's great. But again, how do we get that out there?
You don't.
Because I'll give you an example. So
He has no intention to at all. He just wants to be the contrarian so that the people who don't trust traditional doctors go to him. And he knows this too. He's saying it facetiously here.
for my patients who are over the age of 40, I can do the ASCVD risk score, which is their 10-year risk score of having a stroke or heart attack. Now I plug in some numbers into this calculator and I get a percentage. This
His
percent
breathing into the mic is driving me nuts. He's stressed.
based off this percentage, I can decide course of action for this patient. And the reason why I'm comfortable using the score calculator is because it's validated across diverse patient population, randomized controlled studies done on it, seeing what the actual outcomes are from doing this risk score calculator, as well as the interventions that follow. There's some people who make their own risk score calculators in the cardiovascular world, and they choose their own numbers to plug into their calculator. Here's why I don't agree with it, because it's not validated across a diverse group of patients. Do you see why I don't like their calculator as opposed to the 10-year ASCVD calculator? But some of them will come and show that their
He doesn't
calculator
understand anything going on right now.
helps 84% of their patients. Now, using their anecdote of helping their patients, should I then just throw away my other calculator and say, patients, I'm going to use this new calculator now because this person said this about their clinic? Or should there be a level of skepticism, like your father said, and said, BS, no, let's test it? Or should we just accept it?
Maybe this whole thing, maybe his whole career is that he hates his dad. He hates his dad, that his dad called bullshit on his bullshit. And now he's making it everyone's problem that if you question me, you're an evil person. It's starting to make sense. He needs to get a brain scan. That'll show it. That'll actually show. It'll be written in ink. That exact thing that I just said.
I think you should test it, which is why we do outcomes on all of our patients.
That's not testing.
Now, is that going to
test.
randomize?
You know that's not a good
Is that
test.
going to
Thank
go with your patients? No, but your patients will be better if you added imaging.
But you can't
are
say
we
that.
going to talk about the book at all? Or
Well, I mean, this is a premise of your book, no?
imaging is not the premise
SPECT
of my book.
is not in your book?
It's in the book, but it's not
There's
the premise
images
of
of
the
SPECT
book.
in the book.
We're not going to talk about the book.
What do you mean? We talked about pain. We talked about the cycle of pain.
He's
how
like,
you're-
I'm here to make a buck, dude. Don't you know that this is what I'm here for? You're supposed to be here platforming me, giving me free reign to spew bullshit. That is what I was promised, and my assistant is now fired.
brain has this blueprint that it starts cycling between that we're on board with. We talked about Dr. Sarno's work.
I have to bring out an oldie for this one. Okay, this is an oldie, but it's the most appropriate time.
Why do you follow me if you don't already own my book?
You're welcome.
Do you feel like I'm being unfair if you think?
Yes, you don't even care about my book. Ugh.
Think so? Please tell me.
Yes.
How so?
Because you're like
so mean.
going on the same thing over and over again.
It's fair enough.
It doesn't feel fun or fair. But I love talking about our work, and
I'm sure.
It's interesting to me.
That's just why doctors don't take him seriously, because as soon as he's confronted with anything that's actually medically sound, he just falls to pieces and acts irrationally emotionally.
Often I've been criticized, and very few people go, so you've seen more scans than anyone in the history of the world. What have
So you would go to he doesn't like big pharma, right? But if you were to say a person who's seen more people benefit from Prozac than anyone else in the world, he's had 1 million patients benefit from Prozac. If you were to say, well, see, Prozac is flawless, I've seen 1 million people benefit from it, he would go, no, but some people are bad. It's like, well, I've never seen those people, so why would I care? So he's purposely ignoring logic for the service of himself and selling his books.
you learned? And as opposed to, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that and you should have done this. And don't you think it'd be better if you did that?
Very fair.
As opposed to, so what did you learn?
Toxic positivity is eroding these wellness people's brains.
Nearly 300,000 scans.
Because he's not your mother. He doesn't have to hold your hand and lie to you.
No, that it just doesn't feel like it. Right? I mean, I can only tell you my experience. It feels like.
But don't you think I should be a skeptic on behalf of my patients?
Yes.
I think you should be curious.
I so am.
He's so curious.
Behalf of your patients, that if you could help them have a better brain, they would have a better life, and that things
okay,
like
then let's prove that.
Alzheimer's.
Let's prove that. No, I can't. Okay, well then, what you're saying is just your opinion.
Disease. So I wrote a book in 2005 called Preventing Alzheimer's Disease.
Good for you.
And got no end of grief. It's like that's
Why? Giving
people false hope. And last year, The Lancet came out with an article that said 50% of Alzheimer's.
It says fact check. Modifying 12 risk factors over the life course could delay or prevent 40% of dementia cases, according to an update to the Lancet Commission on Dementia Prevention, Intervention, and Care.
This is preventable. And
what were the tips that you gave in that book?
So it was bright minds. You want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it, you have to prevent or treat these 11 risk factors. That if you're pre-diabetic, that's an emergency.
It's like I could write a book and go, preventing depression. Number 1, be born into wealth. That'll be a good beginning step. Number 2, have no health risks at all. Have no genetic disorders. Number 3, only eat caviar. Like, you could just write whatever and be like, well, I gave the tips. It's your responsibility to follow it. And it's like, oh.
Emergency. Because diabetes, if you have diabetes, you have all 11 risk factors. Just that one. So it's going back to really creating this revolution in brain health, getting people to love and care for their brain.
Good luck.
And if I was a family medicine doctor,
why does he sound like he's been punched? He's like, I would say you didn't even talk about my book.
Be thinking as mental health is brain health.
Like the need for treating patients who have prediabetes I frequently struggle actually in finding motivation from my patients when they do flag
The editors, he's on to him. This editor knows what's up.
on their labs, having a hemoglobin A1C in that level, of saying, hey, this is when it's reversible. Because once technically, maybe there's some outliers. Once you become a diabetic, you're diabetic for life, at least in terms of your risk factors. Weight loss, extreme weight loss.
Association. He's dissociating so hard. This editor is funny. I like him or her.
Seemingly control it because we've seen those who have bariatric surgery not need medications anymore, even though they were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. But in the majority of cases, the time when it's reversible is the pre-diabetic stage. So I struggle in helping my patients get motivation there. So which of these 11 recommendations in the Alzheimer's book do you think
I
that
bet he's going to sue. He's going to try to sue him for being unfair.
we're lacking in the primary care space so we can encourage doctors to do it?
It's that so much of these bad things that happen to your parents that we can prevent if we work together to be very serious about it. It's one of the beautiful parts about imaging. On my podcast, we had Julius Randle.
Or everyone's nice to me, by the way.
Recently, 3-time NBA All-Star. He's depressed, smoking way too much pot, about to get divorced. And he saw a scan, and he's like, oh, no, I don't like that. Immediately stopped smoking pot.
Amazing.
And a year later, his life's completely different because
Study of
the
one.
images created an idea in his head that if he
So he's basically telling himself that the scans are placebo. It is a thing that they do to trick you into having buy-in to whatever the doctor is prescribing you, because you have the brain image. Now you're bought into the treatment. But the scan itself does nothing else. He's telling on himself. Now, is that worth thousands of dollars for an accountability psychological mind trick? Maybe for some people, but for a lot, no, they're being lied to. That, oh, this can tell me that you have ADD. It doesn't. Amy, thank you so much. You're my favorite of this whole stream. You have been here from the beginning. Holla.
Your girl is a bougie bitch.
Okay, I'm going to play another OG one.
I am all about getting a free ride.
Poverty mindset.
Thank you, Amy. Amy says, more likes on the video, more pets for the kitten. It does equal that. Right, Tara? You want to see another one of her toys? I'll keep bringing toys out every time Amy sends a chat. Yes. Okay, this is her candy wheel. It's a little maybe like a octopus or something, and it's rainbow. So cute. And then I'll give you a bonus one. This is a Swedish fish. She loves a Swedish fish, and she's got a little lamb coat on it. Okay. You can play with all of them. I have literally the biggest bag of toys in the whole world, but she needs more, right? You always need more. More is more, right? Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
didn't do the right thing,
Thank you, Amy.
it was going to get worse and he would be worse. And if he did the right thing, it could be better. One of the reasons I fell in love with imaging.
Placebo.
It's creating the hope, and hope is tomorrow can be better and I have a role in it. It's creating that sense of agency in your patients. And if they don't ever get a scan, you could show them the
Okay, this is the same thing as going to a psychic after a loved one dies is positive. You know, like if it's not harming them, because for thinking that this person is happy and doing better on the other side, and the person that's telling them this knows it's fake, but it's helping them recover from this tragedy. And even though you're paying this person money, it's all positive. Okay, that's true to a point, right? You could argue like, okay, they're not a psychic. Everyone knows they're not a psychic, but they have to keep up the ruse for the effect on the person to feel realistic. But what if you are addicted to going to psychics? Or now the psychic's asking for $20,000 to get rid of the hex on your life. Now it's too much. And I feel like when you are in these slippery slope scenarios, you have to have strong ethics as a person to be able to do the right thing in these scenarios. And people who are wanting to be psychics and to be scammers don't have good ethics. So good luck.
Images.
But
if we don't do
sounds
the right
same to
thing,
me.
your brain is headed this way. But if you do the right things, it can be better, which is why my first big book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, I think worked, because it was a book of strategies and hope.
Yeah, because using that motivational tool as a behavior modification tool could be quite valuable. Like I actually am not against finding unique ways of trying to motivate my patients, because ultimately, if I had to say my biggest struggle outside of our healthcare system is finding motivation in my patients who are perhaps depressed or maybe don't even have a formal diagnosis, but have issues with life that are ongoing, that aren't easily resolvable, custody battles, divorces, etc. So my only concern with using the imaging as the compliance benefit is that if you were just using it in that way, I see the benefit. But then when you're criticizing the rest of the psychiatric
Yes, I
community,
agree.
it's almost impacting our ability to practice medicine.
I agree with him exactly, because I can also see it, okay, as the method that he's saying it now, fine. But when he goes and disgraces the entire psychiatry field because they're not doing what he's doing, that's where I have a problem with it too.
Because we're not doing the imaging. Do you see
Fair.
what I'm saying with that?
Yes. Come on.
Yeah, but I can't not say what I believe the truth is.
Okay.
Because then the field will never change.
But why
and
can't
if
you
the
just say
field
the
never
tool
changes,
is beneficial?
I'm sorry?
Why can't you just say this is beneficial, this is how I motivate my patients?
Yes.
But when you say we're flying blind,
Yes.
you're creating this distinction for
Thank you. That's exactly the crux of this whole thing. That's the summary right there. That's perfectly said.
patients that are saying, we don't see Dr. Amen and we see Dr. Mike, we're going to get subpar blind care. Why would we ever do that?
Yes.
Why would anyone want to go see a doctor that's flying blind?
It's a good question.
Oh my God.
But do you see how it sets up that
He thinks he's a genius, but he's an idiot. And that's how you know he's smiling, going, see, that's exactly what I'm saying, that you should come see me. That's when you know he doesn't care about his patients. He cares about his money making.
dichotomy for patients where they have to make this terrible decision and they're already not in a good mental health
Stigmatized.
space? So I'm curious, can we use it as a compliance booster, but not necessarily shame the rest of psychiatry? And instead,
So how do we move forward if we don't
Research.
say
Research.
that-
Yeah, yes. How do we move forward? Research. I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to ignore that hateful comment against me. You're just a hater. He's about to be like, you're a hater. All the people who don't agree with me are haters, and they're just out to get me.
what we're doing
Research.
is flawed?
we need to, well, first of all, you could say what we're doing is flawed.
Yeah.
But I think it's not fair to say you have the solution until we have the
Proof.
randomized controlled data.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could say
And-
you're
and
working
I don't
towards
agree
that
because
solution.
I have outcomes on thousands of patients. I mean, I published the outcomes on the first 500.
Okay. This guy chooses not to want to understand.
And this is what I believe, that if you don't look, you don't really know. And it's
Well, that's your belief.
not based on 40
That's not what-
cases.
Yeah, I'm not
that
saying it
we've
is.
seen.
Medicine is.
It's based.
You keep saying these criticisms and defending them that I'm not saying. I'm not saying that you have a limited number of cases. I'm not saying anything negative about you. I'm just saying that the randomized controlled data that I need for universal recommendation is missing. And I feel like that's important. I mean, the critics of SPECT say Depending if you have a cup of coffee, certain parts of the brain imaging will change. It's the same way that
Fact check. Psychiatric brain imaging studies show a high degree of variability within groups of healthy and ill subjects, often with considerable overlap.
Consistent over time. There's a study from UCLA, Ishmael Mena, that over 3 weeks, there's less than 3% variability. Plus, in our clinic, we do 2. We do one at rest, one when you concentrate. And so we have 100,000 rest concentration scans, and your pattern is going to be your pattern unless you get drunk. It does change during the time of your cycle, which is very interesting. If you never believed in PMS, the scans during different times of the cycle will convince you it can be a real thing. They're very consistent over time.
Well, given the fact that certain things interfere with them, couldn't that make it weaker? Like, for example, when I prescribe a patient to get a HIV screening test, right? I know the sensitivity and specificity is to a level that I'm comfortable giving this test to someone who has no symptoms. But in these scenarios, what is the sensitivity of a SPECT scan on the same person, weeks apart, across a diverse group of people? And does it hold up? We don't know that yet.
Well, Mena said it was less than 3%.
Well, in that study, but I'm saying the randomized controlled data is missing to be able to diversify it.
Yes.
Again, I'm not talking about the initial research being. I think the research that you're doing is so important because you need foundational research. The first doctor that said wash your hands in between the morgue and delivering patients was viewed as someone who's making stuff up and sees something on their hands.
He died in poverty.
In the insane asylum or something.
Right.
So
And I will never be in poverty. Bitch. Oh, where did I put that?
But also,
Bitch.
Found it.
in a Semmelweis. But we need to be able to test whether or not these things are valuable. And I don't understand why you're not leading the charge for that as the number one proponent.
I've published more research than almost anybody on
But there's
SPECT.
a difference between
I
publishing
published
outcome
on
data.
Outcomes, how it changes clinical practice. I published on ADD multiple times. We have a new study coming out on bipolar disorder. We've published on traumatic brain injury.
Again, he's willfully choosing to be ignorant because he knows how medicine works, how science works, and he's choosing to be like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I did all of this. I've done it all. Well, no, the difference is, well, I've done other things too. It's like he knows.
I've published review papers. There's a lot of published research on it. We haven't done your study.
But you keep saying it's my study.
Or the one
From
that
the
you
hierarchy of
keep
evidence.
talking about over and over again in the last hour or so.
Well, if you're trying to find out something...
We've published a lot. I mean, it's very important for people to understand, in my book, The End of Mental Illness, there are 1,084 references. Because if I'm going to make this big idea, paradigm shift, stop calling it mental illness, start calling these things what they really are. They're brain health issues that I have to be able to back that up.
But you
and
don't.
Talk about a lot of the research on SPECT for a wide variety of conditions. But even though I can tell you the pattern for OCD, I can tell you the pattern for autism, it doesn't say what your brain who has OCD looks like. And if you don't, because if all the patterns were 80% sensitive and specific, and we have ADHD data that's way higher than that,
I'm getting tired.
but not everybody has that pattern. That's why you look, not because SPECT can say, oh, you have this or that diagnosis. You and I can say you have this or that diagnosis. What you and I can never be able to do, is to go, this is your brain pattern, and that's how I need to target the treatment to you, not your cluster of symptoms.
We can change the threshold in the imaging to make it appear different.
So,
Meaning
what does that mean?
Basically,
yes,
what I'm
I can
saying-
make your scan look terrible by changing the threshold.
Well, that's what I'm
saying. But why
saying.
would I do that? I mean, I make
To prove whatever you want to prove. That's a great point. I applaud this man, honestly. Again, I'm sorry. He stayed focused and didn't let him get away with shit. I love it so much. This is the best interview. God, this is just so inspiring.
how we
When
render
we
the
make a
images.
threshold for what is prediabetes, we take a diverse set of people that is generalizable to the individual. And because we have this randomized controlled data, validated data, we can then say above 5.6, you're entering prediabetes. Above 6.5, you're getting diabetes. But with these thresholds, do we have validated thresholds to say this is where you should set your imaging parameters? We do.
Yeah,
And what-
with normal, we have normal. So average is 72%. So SPECT is a study of relative blood flow. What that means is we take the coldest spot in the brain, make that 0, the hottest spot in the brain, make that 100, and we scale everything between these two poles. And the average, most parts of the brain outside the cerebellum, is 72. And so 2 standard deviations is 6, 2 standard deviations, 84. So above 84%, we think that's increased activity in the brain. Below 60%, we actually use 55 for safety. It's 2 standard deviations or more below. Those are the thresholds. That's how we set it. Again, very consistent with the data from UCLA.
I have an idea for that randomized controlled study that you mentioned that I could design. What about taking people,
Brain alert.
randomizing them into 2 groups, scanning actually both groups with SPECT, but for one group, not using the SPECT data to see, to guide treatment.
It's like, I hate that.
Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier.
So you're not treating off of that, but you're still randomized. Doctors still don't know. I mean, the patients still don't know which group they're in. And then going treatment wise, and then seeing their outcomes from a clinical perspective, seeing how they're doing through patient surveys. And then also looking back at their spec, redoing their spec and seeing if there's a change. Isn't that a great study that could truly perhaps prove that SPECT can be generalizable to the general public?
Yes, no, I think that's a great idea. And
I'll never do it.
And then we'd probably need 3 or 4 independent Aveman clinic sites to do that as well.
I think it's an important question to ask. If we do that randomized controlled study that we've just talked about, and it turns out that it's not useful, would you give it up?
Absolutely not.
Why?
And he's like, yeah, absolutely not. I make so much money. Are you stupid? Have you not listened to anything I've said? I have made my decision. Data be damned. I don't care. And his face is like, wait, why? But he's like, have you not? I don't believe in this. I'm just doing it for the money.
Did you give it up?
Absolutely not.
He can't contain his smile.
Why?
Because how am I going to know if your symptoms are a result of your brain working too hard or not hard enough, if it's toxic or traumatic?
You'd have
So
to
you're
find
just
a new
asking me
mechanism.
to give up, 35
My
years
bullshit.
of experience showing how imaging changes what I do or guides what I do
Doesn't mean you're
based
right,
on a
though.
study of 50 people.
Well,
Now,
why does it have
I
to be 50
suspect
people?
the study
Why 50
will
people?
be...
Why'd you underpower my study so quickly?
Well, whether it's 300 people, right?
About
Well, I'm not
100,000.
giving up imaging because if you
evidence
don't look, you
disagrees?
don't know. I mean, there's this thing
bad at
called
this.
face validity that it makes. I mean, there are just so many advantages to imaging.
No, there's not.
That,
You just proved that time and time again in this interview. There's
you know,
nothing.
probably if there were
Compliance,
50 studies
maybe.
done like that, 40 of them would come out positive and maybe 10 wouldn't. Why? Well, you've been around research long enough to go, whatever the person thinks is going to happen, they'll set it up to make it happen.
That's what his studies do. Self-own. He's telling on himself again.
That maybe you have way more confidence in imaging, in research than I do. But one statistician told me that 16 out of 17 statistics lie, depending on what people think. You saw Dr. McCary just come out recently with
So all your studies are pointless too, is what you're saying. So erase the rest of what you said already tonight.
hormone study. And he goes, when you actually read the study, they made that huge recommendation that kept HRT from women for 20 years, that it was actually based on flawed data.
Well,
so
Says fact check. The data from WHI is not nor was ever proven to be flawed. The mainstream press made errant conclusions based on incorrect interpretations of the data.
oh, I'm not giving up the idea that imaging is useful.
That's flawed. That's scientific flaw. You're using emotion over logic.
Use it better? Absolutely. And we're using AI tools in studying
Not AI tools.
all of our patients' data, because they allow us to study anonymized data. So in my mind, no, I wouldn't give it up.
That's all we need to know. Honestly.
But there's ways to use it better. I'm certain.
You said like 16 out of 17 research articles are flawed. Does that apply to your research?
No, 16 out of 17 statistics lie.
Oh,
so
is that
you
true
can-
about your research as well?
No,
Why?
Of course not.
because we want it to be reproducible.
No, mine are true. 16 out of 17 other statistics are fake, but mine are true. And I do have bias, but I will not admit that I have bias, for sure.
But the rest of the scientific community doesn't? I'm just asking why your assumption is that this randomized controlled study would be flawed, but yours aren't.
Because I'm special.
You said I didn't have any randomized controlled trials.
I didn't say your randomized controlled trial. I said your trials. I just don't know why
I
there's
don't know why he's laughing. You look like a fool with your pants on the ground.
such a negative push to the scientific field. Like we're now discounting data because you're saying data is always flawed. But you use data.
So you don't believe that? Really? I mean, after all the time you've been a doctor.
Well, what's the
when
question?
You read
Specific
the
question.
studies.
Please
Let's just take the one.
He literally has his whole argument this whole time is like, I have looked at more data than anyone else on this subject. Now he's saying all data's bullshit. Don't you agree? Man, this guy is. There's only 7 minutes left of this. 6 minutes left. He's gonna storm off. He must. This can't end well.
And Dr. McCary, who's the commissioner of the FDA,
Women's Health Initiative.
cited
Let's do it.
that when he actually went and looked at the data, it actually said the opposite of what the press release came out and said, which then hurt millions of women.
The medications that were used in that trial were appropriate for what that trial was trying to achieve. And what we were trying to extrapolate for it was not what the study was trying to achieve. In addition, the way that the study patient selected, which carries a tremendous impact on the study, they tried to pick people without menopausal symptoms, hot flashes, all of these things, because they were worried that if people saw their hot flashes improve, they would know and it would no longer be a blinded study. So there are criticisms of the research, and there's always criticisms of the research.
Always.
But my concern is that when you're ready to write off the research that disagrees with you, you're part of the problem that you just said.
Yes.
That if you're just seeking to agree with yourself, that how the scientific community says that that you just said they do that. They try and get research that agrees with them. Don't you want to try and disprove your method in order to prove how strong it is?
No. I want to make money.
So at this point in my career, no.
Got it. That's good
Why
science.
is
That if I looked at your scan, I feel really confident that it tells me how healthy your brain is, if it's overactive, if it's underactive, compared to not just our normal group, but our hundreds of thousands
it
of
up.
scans. And for you
lost.
to just sit here and go, but don't you want to prove yourself wrong? It's like, no.
That's the scientific method. When you fail to prove yourself wrong, that
You are
strengthens your
early
argument.
on.
But we're pretty early
Is
on.
this
We don't have a
helpful or
randomized
not
controlled study.
helpful? Yeah. No, I find
if
it
you s-
incredibly helpful.
What if you
but
scan
I'm
my
just
brain?
like, what's
Are we not going to talk about my book?
I'm just asking myself, what's the point?
Well,
right? It just seems like we're arguing to argue as opposed to learn anything.
Helping millions of Americans and people around the world that you claim you have the secret sauce to their happiness and brain health. How about them? What's the point? The point of the patients.
New.
If you scan my brain and it shows low brain activity, perhaps holes, sleepy frontal lobe, but I'm crushing it. I love life. I'm happy. I'm excelling at sports. Podcast is going well. What does that mean?
You're a liar.
Well, it means you have low frontal lobe activity and you're compensating for it and you're not suffering. And so Alzheimer's disease actually starts in the brain 20 years before you have any symptoms. Frontal temporal lobe dementia starts in the brain way before you have symptoms. So what it means, in my mind, based on my experience, is your brain's vulnerable. And it's probably not good for you. So you may be crushing it, but are you going to be crushing it 20 years from now? Or would it be better for you
Take my supplements.
to get it as healthy as it could be so you could continue to crush it and you end up not being a burden to your children?
That's a really good question. And I think
Burden to your children. Oh boy.
the way we figure that out
hates his dad.
is by doing the research to figure out if that intervention will get me there.
Yeah.
So I think we should look at your brain.
Oh God.
I have a clinic here in New York, and the radiation is about the same as a head CT, ordered millions of times
is not
every year
correct.
in the United States.
There was a recent report that CTs are raising our risk of cancer by double digits. So got to be careful about that.
He's like, don't bring these bullshit facts up at my opportune time to bring you into my PR stunt. It said CT examinations in 2023 were projected to result in approximately 103,000 future cancers over the course of the lifetime of exposed patients. If current practices persist, CT-associated cancer could eventually account for 5% of all new cancer diagnoses annually. Damn.
But go ahead, sorry.
Ordered millions of times every year in the United States. I think it would be interesting. And then
It would not be. I mean, it would be
you
interesting.
could decide if it was valuable for you.
Yeah, my hesitation is, so why I tell patients who, residents rather, that want to reflexively check thyroid levels in my patients that are not having symptoms, like part of their screening basically. A healthy person comes in and my resident automatically checks off checking thyroid. And I said, well, why? They said, well, I want to check and make sure it's optimized. So my question to them is, let's say a patient comes in and their T4 is marginally low. Are you going to treat that patient who's comfortable and then give them thyroid hormone, leading them to have palpitations and discomfort? So like every time I'm ordering a test, I'm trying to think, what if, how is this going to change my practice of care? And if you're saying that if I have these findings on the SPECT scan and I'm feeling great now, there's a chance I won't feel great later, I would want to know how sure of that you are based on randomized validated data. I think that's pretty reasonable to ask.
Yes.
No?
No, not reasonable.
I think it's also reasonable to ask, is what's your experience? Is it as healthy as it could be? And I actually disagree with you. I think people should know their important numbers every year. Like you should know your BMI. You should know what your thyroid is doing. You should know your testosterone levels.
It says, choosing wisely, ASCP recommends avoiding TSH screening and annual well visits for asymptomatic adults because evidence doesn't show improved care. The Canadian Task Force 2019 recommends against screening asymptomatic non-pregnant adults, citing low certainty evidence and lack of demonstrated clinical benefit plus risk of unnecessary treatment.
But there's such natural fluctuations of these numbers that are outside of your control that will lead you to premature, perhaps unnecessary treatment.
But he's like, well, there's not a simple catchphrase I can use that just sums it all up, which is, if you don't look, you can't see. That's my catchphrase, and I can't use it if I have nuance. So shut up.
So many times. So many times.
So if you're hanging with a testosterone level of 250, which is not uncommon today.
Okay.
You think,
what time of day did you test it?
Probably morning.
Because a lot of these clinics that don't do it in the morning in order to prescribe testosterone for their patients.
Which is bad. Because,
very bad.
You know, too high, your libido goes up and your empathy goes down and you get divorced.
Well, I think about also the medical problems that come along with that.
It's like, so I'm just, I often say, how do you know unless you look?
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your work. Everyone can check out the book. Pre-orders until December 9th.
December 9th.
And then that's when it publishes.
Yeah.
Congratulations on another. I know this is going to be a New York Times bestseller. So wishing you the best of luck for that. Thank you, doctor. Click here to see a list of 10.
Man, he destroyed him, you could say. Holy shnikes. I don't know. Unless he got up and ran off and the microphone ripped off and his pants fell off and he was like screaming and crying and like Ned Fulmer does after walking for a day. I mean, there was no better. This guy sucks. This guy don't know what he's talking about. This guy a scammer, grifter, faker than that. I applaud Dr. Mike. I give him a tip of my hat, sir. In this specific, I haven't watched any other of his interviews. This one specifically, I gotta say, answered all my questions that I was wondering and asked them in a sensitive way that I feel like did not get in. Yeah, gotcha, moment. I feel like he kept him under control so that he was able to show the flaws of his logic. Now, does Dr. Amen think he won that argument? Yes, I do think he thinks that. But I think deeper down he knows that he's full of shit and that he'll never go on an adversary's podcast ever again. Man, what an experience. Oh, my brain. I need a massage. I need a scan. I need some hyperbaric oxygen. Stat. You know who likes those is Heidi Powell. We'll have to check in with her soon. And Medical Medium. And we'll get his insights on brain scans. What is Medical Medium's... Medical Medium's... Medical Medium's brother is Medical Mean? Your cousin's medical average. Hey, I'm here till Thursday. Okay. All right. Time to wrap it up. Time to sing my song. If you'd like to join the membership and get your name sung, you can do that. There's a link at the bottom of this video. And if you just want to join and hang out, chill, scan your brain metaphorically, just come watch, come comment, come say hi, and I'll be here. So next week is Christmas, right? I'm going to visit my pops next week. And then the next week after that is New Year's Eve, but I think oh shit. Well, we'll figure that out because my friend's coming to town. So, and my apartment's 4 feet by 4 feet, so it might be hard to stream with a second person in here. But we'll see. We'll check in next week at some point. Maybe I can do a stream. Maybe I can do a stream before this. We could double the streams this week before I go to town, and then we can take 2 weeks off. Have a Christmas vacation, and then start up in the 2026 year. I'll let you know. I'll post it in the community, but we'll figure it out. I'm leaving Sunday, so maybe Friday night, perhaps. I could be down for a Friday night stream. Let me know. Oh, Bonnie says, y'all, dad joke. What's Santa's favorite genre of music? Rap. I like that one, Bonnie. Bonnie. So funny, Bonnie. Wow. I'm going to use that one. Oh, and thank you to Angela Arnold. Thank you so much. Angela Arnold says, Happy Holidays. Let's just sing a holiday song, shall we?
Time for me, you, and all the nations to get us some elevation.
Woo! Matthew McConaughey, I'll just say, just before I leave, I know more about his wet dreams than I know about any other person in the entire world. He writes these emails every Friday, and he talks about his wet dreams constantly. I think he's got some sort of fetish. We should scan his brain, find out. That's actually a live recording of Matthew McConaughey sleeping. So, gross. Okay. Good night, everybody. See you. That I don't like. Good night.